Hello. Ah. Hello. Hello. Ah. Sorry, I'm late. Cedric needed uppies. I'm gonna blame Cedric for this one. Cedric he needed uppies, guys. He needed uppies. I don't know what to tell you. You know? And I was popping some ibuprofen because I have a massive headache. Oh. Hi, guys. Hi, everybody. Uppies is important. I agree. I concur. Absolutely. Don't blame the baby. Too late. It's already what I've done. It's already done. Hi, guys. Welcome in, everybody. My name's Roy Chiato, like a macchiato. I'm a coffee-fueled bunny host with a serious passion for voice acting, and I love working out, in case you couldn't tell. Welcome in, everybody. I hope you're all doing fantastic today. Now, what could ever be the reason for the headache? That's crazy. I wonder. I hope you get better soon. Oh, I just need some sleep. I'll be okay, don't worry. Did you sleep well? Probably not as much as I should have. Probably not as much as I should have. But, you know. Hello, Royley. Royley. What's the rating on Silent Hill F? I'd give it a 6. I think I'm leaning towards 7 at the moment. I want to play a second playthrough before I give it like a final decision. But I'm debating between whether I want to do that in Discord or whether I want to stream it. Part of me wants to stream it because I think it would be nice to put a close to that, you know, have a VOD for it and everything. I think that would be pretty good. But the other part of me is like, I wonder if I would enjoy it more for my own personal enjoyment if I only played it on Discord with you guys. So that's what I'm unsure about. So I'm debating with that right now. I'm trying to see what everybody wants. It seems like the majority of people want me to stream it, but I don't think they realize how different the stream would be if I did it that way. You know what I mean? Fairy, thank you for the super. Hello to Roy from Fairy and her doggo. He wagged his tail for you. Should I give him Treatos or pets from you? Go for the pets. I don't wanna disrupt any treat cycles you have going on there. No. Guns, you're goddamn right. Okay, well, son, bunny boss. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Gotta get extra rest tonight. Yeah, I've got some voice acting I gotta do tomorrow, so. Bunny boss has to be strong. You're goddamn right I do. I gotta be strong for you guys. I gotta be strong for you guys, right? What game? We're talking about Silent Hill F, because we finished all of Silent Hill F in one sitting yesterday. And it was a time. It was definitely a time. But because of the ending, it ends in a way that in order to get the full picture, you have to do a second playthrough. So I'm kind of in the mindset now of, do I do that second playthrough on stream? Or do I play it on Discord only with the rest of you guys? So strong for us, strong for family, strong for friends, and most importantly, strong for yourself. Oh, is that so? Hi, Sakura. Hey, Rose. Roy. I was saying your name, not mine. Hey, Roy. I saw the voice drama you did with Aniki. Oh, Alpha. Yeah. It was great. Thank you. Hey, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. We worked really hard on that one. Yeah. Streamed for 13 hours straight. I hope your rest was incredible. I don't think it was long enough. Yeah. I definitely need to get some more sleep tonight because I have more stuff that I got to do tomorrow before we dive into Final Fantasy 14. Yeah. So I need coffee and to do my quiz, but I picked staying with the bun. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I have my coffee here. FF14. So this one's not going to be with the community, or at least not right away. It won't be. I thought it would. It is not. I'm going to be doing a collab with Rizar, Vanta, and Taiga, who is the one that put it together. So yeah, the four of us are going to be hanging out tomorrow slightly earlier than normal, about 8 p.m. CST, so 1 hour earlier than we started tonight. We'll be playing Final Fantasy XIV with the boys. So that'll be fun. I mean, I was going to say, Vanta and I have already played a lot of 14 together. It's been I don't think I've ever played with Taiga. And Rizar, it has been a while since I've played. But Vanta and I play pretty regularly together, so. Hi, Bunny. Hi, Chad. How y'all doing? We're vibing. We're thriving. We might even just be surviving. Time to find out why RE6 is the best game ever. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm actually, this is genuinely one of the behind the scenes videos that I've been most looking forward to, because I'm so curious, like, what went into the process of Resident Evil 6. Because, like, 4 and back, I kind of had some ideals already. I kind of knew what the story was of the behind the scenes. I kind of knew the stuff that was the reasoning for why games ended up the way they did. You know, I was familiar with Sweet Home. I was familiar with Rob Zombie filming stuff. I was familiar with Resident Evil 1.5, why Zero was the way that it was. Then it was planned for the N64 originally. So, like, I had, like, a lot of, like, eclectic knowledge about Resident Evil in my head. But as you go on with the franchise more and more, I knew less and less about it. Like, didn't know any of the behind-the-scenes stuff with Resident Evil 5 for the most part. And Resident Evil 6, I don't know anything of the behind-the-scenes. So I don't know if they were rushed. I don't know if there were budget issues. I don't know why they decided to do the way they did things. I think Resident Evil 6 might be one of the ones I'm least familiar with in terms of the behind-the-scenes. So, yeah, 14 with the boys. Taiga has it on his schedule officially, so I feel confident talking about it. That's why I put just Final Fantasy XIV for tomorrow, because if for some reason the collab didn't go through, we were just going to play as a community anyway. And we might still, after we play with the boys, if they decide to dip out after we do the new deep dungeon. So that'll be really fun. I'm really excited for that. Yeah. I'll be honest, I fell asleep for hours, like 3 hours before the end of the stream. It happens. And we need to follow the boys now. There you go. Yeah, like I said, that'll be Vanta, Rizar, and Taiga. All I know about 6 is it was during their big Western push that kind of failed. Yeah. 6, ironically, we say failed, and we're always very critical of this era of Resident Evil, but Resident Evil 6 was, at the time, the highest selling Resident Evil. So it's like, while we, as a Resident Evil fandom, are very much in agreement that Resident Evil 6 is not a good entry in the franchise, it was very polarizing for Capcom, because for them, they're like, wow, this made a lot of money. But then the critic reviews are, wow, this was not great. So very interesting. It's okay to fall asleep during stream. No, it's not. Don't be like Thorn. Only Thorn can do that. No one else. The hardest players to kill as a creature are the ones who know how to use the quick shot. Oh, with Agent Hunt? I don't think I ever did Agent Hunt. I get the EP pass. I mean, sometimes. But sometimes I need you here, clearly. It's very important. I did last night by accident. You're forgiven this time. But don't let it happen again. I'm watching you. I'm watching you, okay? Sorry, it's 3 a.m. and I didn't have coffee. Can you guys believe this? They didn't have coffee? Impossible. That sounds against the law. I think Leon's campaign helped keep 6 going during its launch. Yeah, I think probably most people played Leon's and were like, this is great. And then as it went on, it was, oof, you know. I want to promise, and I'm on my 3rd cup. Wow. I think I'm only on my 2nd. I think it's only my 2nd for today. I did that before. I did not know it was a rule. Super important rule. You guys aren't allowed to sleep in this stream. Unless your name's Thorn. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. If you guys have fun and you need to sleep, go for it. Take care of yourselves. You know? Don't be like me and stay up for 13 hours streaming Silent Hill F. Okay? I don't know how, but I made it through to the end. It was a fun time. I enjoyed it. Valerie. Sleep? Wild dial. I wonder what our son's favorite campaign is. Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even think. I mean, I'd imagine he'd pick Leon's, but it's hard to say. Yeah, it was a 13-hour stream yesterday. I had to split up the YouTube VOD between 2 videos. One's like 11 hours, the other one's like 2 hours. Actually, wait, let me look at that. I'm pretty sure that's how the breakdown is. I'm so sad because we were relatively close to the end, you know. Yeah, one is 10 hours and 45 minutes. The other is 12 hours and 18 minutes. So that adds up to over 13 hours, which is crazy. Yeah. My sleep schedule's crap anyway. I feel that. The Silent Hill F VOD has been so good so far. I got 8 hours in. I'm glad you did this. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I think there's something fun about going through the entirety of a game in one sitting, and you get a perspective on it that you might not get if you let things, if you forget things by taking breaks, you know? There's a few games I know I need to restart for that reason. Like Final Fantasy 16, I didn't finish. I got like halfway through and then I got really busy with other life stuff and then I just didn't go back to it. So I need to finish 16 still because I was really enjoying it. So I was waiting for you to play it before I watched anyone. I'm fascinated by what we can uncover going through the endings. Yeah, I'm still not sure how I want to handle that yet. It's either going to be on Discord or it's going to be streamed. I'm leaning a little bit more towards Discord so that I can like break it up more and more. And then maybe once we're done with that, we find like a retrospective video to watch like lore and things like, you know? You're so cozy. Thanks. I appreciate that. You guys aren't so bad yourself. Keep falling asleep or stopping at some point in... Oh, at the same point in F. Oh. What's the same point? I'm trying to figure out the first ending story. Yeah, I'm still a little bit perturbed. Still a little bit confused on that myself, honestly. I was shocked when I woke up and the stream was in the middle of shining into the second video. Yeah, when we did the live redirect. Yeah. It was kind of crazy. I really thought that we were going to be able to make it, but I definitely did spend a lot of time kind of dicking around. And I'm wondering, we did like 30 minutes of just chatting, and like we did struggle on some parts for a bit too. You know, we did have some struggles. The point house with the person crawling up in the house and getting the key after seeing the fox for the second time. I might not remember that one specifically. Got my nugs ready with Southwest spicy mustard. Did you get me nugs? Wait, I could go for some nugs. I really didn't like how you were forced into a lot of combat areas. Oh, arenas near the end. Yeah, that's my, I think one of my biggest frustrations, because like the general complaint that a lot of people have made about Silent Hill F has been combat. But combat is just such a broad term that it, unless you kind of explain it with the nuance of there's too many like forced combat arenas, there's too many instances where you're not given plentiful amount of healing or weaponry, it makes the game feel significantly more stagnated. And I mean, like, you guys saw me, and I definitely inflicted some of that difficulty on myself by not using the healing items that were able to be used at the altar, because I wanted to save those so that I could stat boost and get more stuff like that, and hopefully make New Game Plus easier. But yeah, it's just the forced arenas were the things that I was definitely frustrated about, and I'm trying not to hold the moment where I got stuck for like 30 minutes fighting like the same group of enemies. It was rough. Going back after knowing the thing with the pills, that was well played. Seeing your options at the first point with them was very interesting. Yeah, because it's funny because you get the pills so early. You know? You get them so early. It's like the first item you get from Shu. And that's just it. I'm so curious how the game will play if we don't take any pills. Like if it actually is like that things look different, feel different, there's different reactions. Bandage is right there when you get the first pills. I'm super excited. Yeah, I think that'll be really cool. There's probably an achievement without any pills. Oh, there's an ending. It's not just achievement, there's an ending. So it's story related too. Yeah. Was Shu supposed to be a good guy? I mean, he's your friend, but it's a little unclear. It's a little unclear. You get all the other endings with no pills. Oh shit. That's good to know. I'll have to think about communicating with the dogs then. And get the UFO ending. I'm leaning towards the Discord for that though. That way we can pull up a guide if I really need it. I missed a pyramid head type enemy. So we kind of did get that with the giant blob guy with the knife for a hand, because it ended up being Hinako's father. You know? That was a really good bit. I did not see that coming. It makes sense thematically. It was great. I really liked that reveal. So I was very happy with that reveal. What is clear is that Shu is a good friend, but a useless partner. Yeah, no one else is fighting the monsters. And I wonder if it's... I wonder if he's useless because of the delusions from the pills, or if he's just not even there. It could just be a figment of her imagination. You know? Yeah. Hi, Fwa Fwa. Fwa Fwa. Fwa Fwa. As much as I dog on the game, the monster designs peak. It does have some really, really cool monster designs. I did really like a lot of them. Did not like Rinko at all. I think that's the thing, though, is like so many of the characters have very interesting personalities rooted in and set in often negative stereotypes from the 1960s in Japan. Rinko fitting much more into the traditional mold of how women were expected to act, and then when others weren't, she was almost like appalled, acting as though they were savages that needed to be educated and corrected. So while Rinko as a character was portrayed as, you know, disturbing and disgusting for how she treated her friends and how she felt about them behind the scenes, it sucks to think because she's probably just a product of the time, you know, where she was raised that way because of the environment and, you know, the situations she found herself in. So, Rinko, Hinako's friend. Lore-wise, a lot of stuff fits together when you get the rest of the endings. Oh, I'm sure. That's why I was saying, like, I want to do more. I think what I might do as a sort of middle ground, how we've done these retrospectives for Resident Evil, because again, we're watching the Resident Evil 6 retrospective tonight. What I might do is I might reach out to a creator or two and see if they're okay with me reacting to their content. I know there's... Hold on, I was looking at somebody. There is Ginji or Gingi. I don't know how to pronounce their name, but I do see that they do a lot of story stuff. I've watched some of their other things before. I wonder if they would be open to me reacting to their stuff on stream. So I think that could be really fun, because that would open up a whole new world of things for us to react to. So yeah. So what I think I might do, if they're okay with that kind of thing, or if I can find someone's content to react to and that they're okay with, is to finish the rest of the endings and like my other cleanups off stream, and then come back and be like, all right, guys, I finished the other stuff. Let's watch a story recap and learn more about it. Was Rinko the perspective in that weird scarecrow puzzle? I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Could make it easier. True. Have you seen Your Favorite Son King Cobra JFS documentary? I don't even know who that is. I know, obviously I know who Your Favorite Son is, but I don't know who King Cobra JFS is. So no, I'm gonna say no. Yeah, I'll probably Belmore, can you remind me to reach out to, it's either Gingy or Gingy or Gingy. I do not know how to pronounce their name. It's Gingy on YouTube. I'll take a look and see if I can reach out to them. Also, I do apologize if I'm a little bit lower energy today. I'm still very exhausted from earlier today, so I'm trying my best to smile through it and have a good time because I just love being here with you guys, you know. But I am definitely going to need to big sleep tonight. Apple. I opted to not have an apple today just because I'm already kind of full. I had some food already. It's probably because I just slept so much, you know. So I might have an apple later for like dessert, but I'm like satiated right now. I'm okay. Hi Java Mama, welcome in. Hi. All right. I was surprised that you managed another stream. When you want it, you want it. I've got stuff to do this week, you know. Oh, Roy, I can't eat apples anymore. My tummy, it rejects them. Well, it sounds like a you problem. Or just slow down on eating them. Give your body a little bit of a break, because if you're forcing yourself to eat them every day, you could build up an intolerance for them. That's not good. That's not good. No apple. You need to keep the doctor away? Oh, trust me, I've had plenty of apples. Besides, what if it's a hot, sexy doctor that makes like bed calls? Can you imagine? Oh no, doctor, I didn't have an apple today. Whatever will you do with me? Oh my gosh. My tummy machine broke in chronic stuff. Oh. Do you want to do human anatomy homework with me? Not really. My brain's not functioning, unfortunately. I do want to sit down and watch this retrospective video, though. So what do you guys say that we dive over into this Resident Evil 6 retrospective video? All right. Let's go ahead. Scooby-Whip! All right, and I've got the video ready. Oh, did YouTube change the player again? It looks different for me. I hate ads. Well, welcome back. We were just about to start. I was trying to wait until people were back from on. Oh my God, why can't I speak? Oh. My goodness gracious. Yeah, look how different the player looks. Whoa. Welcome back, yeah. It's so weird. I mean, I don't hate it. Yeah. You're tired, it updated again? Oh yeah, that's true. All right, guys. Let's dive into our retrospective for Resident Evil 6. It was a game that Shia and I beat together. We did all 3 main campaigns. We skipped Ada's, but we played Leon's, Jake's, and Chris's. We did Chris, then Jake, then Leon in that order. So let's check it out. Ah, yes. This scene.
I have respect for a game that knows its audience. A game...
It did... You know what? Resident Evil 6 did, in fact, know its audience wanted crazy over-the-top action. The people that played Resident Evil 6, you know?
That finds
or
its
wanted
niche
it to be like
and
that.
Decides to master that. Favoring
But unfortunately,
mastery in a lane over dipping into various trades. The main drawback to this approach in development
Resident Evil 6
is that you
pissed off the other
people. There is a ceiling on the amount of people that you'll appeal to, but if you pull it off, you'll manage to create a devoted and faithful fan base that comes back time and time again. Resident Evil 6 takes the opposite approach. It attempts to be a game for everyone.
Yeah.
And in this way, it is a game for no one.
That's cool.
It works to...
What a good statement. Wait, I wholly agree with that. I wholly agree with that. Resident Evil 6 does definitely try and do too much, because like the Leon stuff at the beginning was definitely trying to appeal to the horror survival fans that we wanted in Resident Evil. And then Resident Evil, or Chris's campaign was definitely more the action. And then Sherry's and Jake's was supposed to appeal to people that liked Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. And unfortunately, all of them fell flat for that.
Mesh every single piece of appealing content that the series has used thus far and mashes them into one giant amorphous blob.
Amorphous blob is crazy, but so real.
The result is a formless, ever-shifting, vague spirit, something that can't be quite defined. It's hard to nail down what makes this game so unappealing.
I mean, I think you just said it. I think it tries to do too many things, and by trying to do too many different things, it fails. You know, because all of them end up in this amorphous, homogenistic, generic action shooter. You know, by the end of it.
But in all honesty, this game repelled me in almost every way. A physical rejection through the screen and the controller in my hands. The game pushes the action shift even further in this entry.
It did.
Following the path that Resident Evil 4 and 5 had carved out in previous games.
Yeah.
But like two people making subtle jokes to each other by the water cooler, Resident Evil 6 barges in with a bazooka and erases all precision from the conversation. Its combat rides the line between fun and frustrating.
Yeah.
A game that feels like it's actively stopping you from playing it at almost all times.
Ooh. I mean, yeah, with how fast the set pieces change, or like oh wow, you're having fun with this type of gameplay. What if we forced you into a car driving section? Or what if we forced you to fly a jet?
You are stunned constantly, forced to wait seconds before resuming gameplay. Death animations are incredibly cumbersome, and overreaction and punishment for the player's failure. Where Resident Evil 4 treated the player to interesting, gory sequences, quick kills to showcase your own failure, the death was almost a reward. In Resident Evil 6, it feels like being chewed out by a principal for your failures.
Yeah. There were so many times like I would die like because of movement controls, or like I was in the wrong place while trying to run away from something that was an insta-kill, and then we'd get a cutscene of me dying.
That takes the worst parts of Resident Evil 5 and doubles down on them. The story is poorly paced, with certain campaigns offering no information for hours, repeating cutscenes over and over again for almost no reason, only to info dump all of the story beats halfway through the campaign in one cutscene. New partner characters are treated like afterthoughts.
Oh my god, yes. I said this so much. I think Piers is like the only character that it felt like maybe got a little bit of development. And like they killed him, and it sucks. I think of the newcomers, Piers and Jake are probably the best. Piers, I think, gets extra points because he's dead, so it's like, you know. But Jake is just an interesting concept. Helena is just such a nothing burger, just such a nothing sandwich, and it's really unfortunate. And Sherry, honestly, you know, I work for, you know, Homeland Security. That's it, you know.
Blank pieces of drywall that only exist to be dragged along by our main character. Pre-existing characters are rewritten, either made incompetent or borderline disrespectful.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Chris becoming an alcoholic. I mean, like, I get it. He's an amnesiac, you know.
The environments are cluttered and disorganized. Nearly every single area feels like a messy maze drawn on graph paper with a wandering hand, and then transposed into 3D without any revisions.
Ironically, this is a part that Shia and I really like, this scene specifically. But it was very claustrophobic, and I think the point was that it was supposed to be mimicking like classic Resident Evil for that reason. But obviously that wasn't the case. It was just kind of frustrating.
Nearly no
Wish Jake had a
attempt is
spin-off,
made to
yeah.
guide the player through this environment design, and instead the game relies on sloppy waypoints to push the player forward. And perhaps its worst problem, Resident Evil 6 far overstays its welcome.
Yes.
Just about every campaign lasted at least an hour too long.
I agree with that. Leon's and Helena's definitely felt the bloat. Chris's definitely felt the bloat. Jake's and Sherry's didn't necessarily feel like it outstayed the welcome, but it's still like all of them just felt too long in general.
I often thought I was reaching the
Jake had
finale of
potential,
the
I
chapter
agree.
when I realized that we were just entering a new sequence. The game drags on far too long, shoving its over-the-top action set pieces down your throat, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
When Resident Evil 6 does get its action right, it's fun, and it feels like I'm watching a pulpy flick in the theater.
Yeah.
But these moments are few and far between, and they're often cut in on by 100 or more QTE segments that break up the flow of the action if you happen to miss one.
Yeah, the QTE like breakdown is so bad. We joked about it a little bit for Resident Evil 5, but like Resident Evil 6's QTEs were so much worse than I remembered. They were so much worse. And like most of the time that Shia and I were having the most fun was the moments where like we were being silly and stupid and doing like flying, running melee attacks from like miles away while enemies were shooting at us and still managing to make it work. I wonder if that's why people who actually managed to get the 4th campaign have the best memories of it. It's significantly shorter than all of them, so it just feels snappy. It could be, but then the other problem is that it's just basically a retread from Ada's perspective again, you know? I hated hunting for the emblems, missing them, and having to restart a chapter because it only autosaves and has points of no return everywhere. Yep.
Not to mention the gimmicky vehicle sections that are peppered throughout every campaign.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 6 oscillates between zombie thriller, jumping from survival encampment to survival encampment, to gritty war drama, to chase survival movie.
Yeah.
This game is all over the place. It never stays anywhere for long, so you never feel like you can connect with anything for long.
It is.
Plot threads are left only to be revisited hours later and tied up. But by the time you get...
They say hours later. I think sometimes it's like months later in game time. Because remember, Jake and Sherry get kidnapped for 6 months. They're kidnapped in like a research lab in China for 6 months. It's crazy.
Back to them, you don't really care. These are just some of the reasons that this game fails, an eagle-eyed view of this game's problems. But the issues with Resident Evil 6 sink into the threads. Fine pieces of dried, day-old food stuck within the fibers of the carpet. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'll be diving deep into Resident Evil 6, talking about gameplay, mechanics, story, and every soiled carpet fiber in between.
Yeah, we're going over
RE6's videos on the Resident
retrospective
Evil series,
by your
I
favorite
would
son.
highly recommend checking them out to get the full context of the series.
Why does Jake decide to escape after 6 months? I think it's opportunity. But even then, it's like he takes one dude out, and then the other dude is aiming a gun at him, and then like has to get the gun ready. Yeah. Why did Simmons want Jake? I think it was actually the fake Ada that had kidnapped him so they could take his blood, which was then immune to the C virus, so they could make the C virus stronger. So, yeah.
Development thus far. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to throw me a like.
Yeah, I think it was
subscribe to the
opportunity.
channel, as it really helps me out.
I think you're right.
You can also head to the link in the description to check out my Patreon, where I've been exclusively reviewing the Resident Evil movies. They are arguably more torturous than this game was. So
that's a wild statement. I haven't seen all of them, so I can't attest to all of them. I enjoyed the first Resident Evil live action movie. The second one is not good, but I had fun with it. And then I didn't watch the rest of them.
Go take a peep at those videos. Spoilers ahead. Hey Dad, it's me, your favorite son, and today I'd like to talk about Resident Evil 6.
Thanks, son. I appreciate it.
Resident Evil 6 started pre-production in July of 2009. It took about...
Isn't that after RE5 came out? Wait, usually they're working on games at the same time, aren't they? Like if a game is like not out yet, shouldn't they? Why so late?
About 6 months of planning, getting feedback, and coming up with ideas to start full development on the game. Eiichiro Sasaki would be chosen as a director for this entry, continuing the trend of every mainline entry having a different director, aside from Shinji Mikami directing Resident Evil 1 and 4. Sasaki had directed both Outbreak games before he would work on Resident Evil 6, proving—
That's such a shock. Wait, he worked on the Outbreak games? I didn't know that.
That he had already cut his teeth on the series.
Oh.
Hiroyuki Kobayashi served as producer on Resident Evil 6, and he had previously worked as a producer on Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
Jiro Taioka returned as lead game designer after serving that same role on Resident Evil 5. There was a ton of returning talent on this entry, previous Resident Evil series veterans and Capcom mainstays, but most of the communicated goals for the project were done through producer Kobayashi. In an interview with IGN, he stated that the two tentpoles for this entry were keeping the series' horror roots and providing the ultimate entertainment experience.
I'm sorry. The what roots? The ultimate horror entertainment and horror roots. Huh? What? We don't get the sense that Jake knew the layout of the facility or had a plan. He's just the type to wing it. Oh yeah, I think it was like an on the fly thing. Yeah. The ultimate horror entertainment, really? Are we sure? I don't think they realized what they were making. I don't think they realized what they were making.
We really want to balance all of those things out in this game in order to give a complete gameplay experience to fans of the series and those who may not have previously played an RE game.
It shows.
The team wasn't focusing on one specific title in the series for inspiration. They wanted to take the best things from all the titles to create something new. The ultimate goal with Resident Evil 6 was to create a new experience, and one of the largest development teams thus far was put toward that goal. 150 team members internally worked on the game, but including external sources, the team was somewhere around 600 people. The game was—
Resident Evil 6, 600? Is that where the 6 comes in? What? Huh?
Split into 4 different campaigns, and each campaign was meant to have its own separate appeal and design. Gameplay and combat were tweaked to head further in an action style without alienating the fans that enjoyed the horror tone.
You alienated them.
Games.
You alienated them.
Resident Evil 4 started in that direction, and RE5 kept going in that direction. And I think that especially for the North American market, we need to keep going in that direction and take that a step further. This decision was also made in consideration with the marketability of survival horror games. It was true that the survival horror genre was becoming more niche as the years went on.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. That's such a weird statement, but it's like survival horror specifically was becoming more niche. Silent Hill was in a pretty steep decline. Fatal Frame was in a decline. Resident Evil was in a decline. And those are some of the big 3 that you think about. Dead Space, I think, was just about to put out Dead Space 3. So, like, after the banger that was Dead Space 1 and the banger that was Dead Space 2, they're about to put out Dead Space 3. But, like, this is where the big timing in, like, 2012 and on, we saw that huge shift in horror market. We saw the change from this kind of horror, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Fatal Frame. We saw the shift instead lean into things like Outlast and Amnesia and Cry of Fear and, you know, like those types of games. And even now, today, I feel like the games that are almost more cinematic or story-driven in some of these are doing significantly better and are more popular. Like, if you look at the Chilla's Arts games, they're short, snappy, to the point, tells a story. Go. The Poppy's Playtimes one played on the trend of the whole, you know, animatronic thing, and then they ended up writing a really cool story with characters that are interesting and people want to see. Indigo Park. I'm really interested to see when new parts come out for that. I'd love, first of all, I'd love to be part of Indigo Park. If you guys ever need a voice actor for it, let me know. I would love to. And yeah, and then FNAF is literally just about to come out as well after this. But yeah, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Fatal Frame, and those types of horror games, at this point in time, we're on a very steep decline. So, yeah.
Shooters and action games were growing in popularity, especially with the success of the Call of Duty franchise. And this genre was more fertile ground for creating a
FNAF's my OG. There you go.
The lighting systems were also upgraded for Resident Evil 6 to create a more horrific and atmospheric environment. The game would see the return of many fan-favorite characters and the introduction of globe-trotting locations. But after a few years in development, Resident Evil 6 was released on October 2nd, 2012 in all regions except for Japan.
Can we just talk about this logo? What were they thinking, dude? What were they thinking? Like, what were they thinking? Oh my gosh, dude. We're in the world with Resident Evil. Well, it's better now, but yeah.
Which was released on October 4th, 2012 for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. I played the PC version of the game for this review, which was released a few months later in 2013.
Came with the DLC,
Before we get into Resident Evil 6's story and campaigns, let's talk about its gameplay changes and mechanics.
Yeah.
This game has mainly the same bones as Resident Evil 4 and 5. It features a third-person camera with a live inventory system, limited ammo and healing items, and a melee combat.
The limited inventory screwed Shia and I over so many times. Oh my gosh. It's not even funny how many times Shia and I got boned by inventory.
Combat focus that helps.
And the fact that we couldn't
conserve
trade
bullets.
inventory.
The biggest change that Resident Evil 6 introduces is the ability to move while shooting. This was requested during development of Resident Evil 5, but the team developing that game decided not to include it. Because we can now move while shooting, though, enemies naturally have to be more mobile as well to accommodate our upgraded ability to move.
I'm going to be real. Sometimes the zombies felt too mobile. Like, they shouldn't be, like, wiggle jumping through the air, jumping, like, 70 feet to grab me. To grab my shoelaces. Ain't no way.
The monsters that we fight are more active, but in turn, we are more active to even things out.
Yeah.
We're also given a greatly expanded ability to do melee attacks and movements. We can suplex monsters, we can crush their heads, we can punch them, we can kick them, we can running tackle and crush their skull on the ground. The melee combat was honestly a highlight of the game for me.
That's what I'm saying. Oh my god, my eyes. Oh my god, my eyes. Oh, yes, the melee combat, literally what I was just saying. Shia and I found ways of having fun with the melee because it was just so silly. Also, this is what I was talking about. This is as soon as Jake gets like out, these two guys have their guns ready. And then they, instead of shooting, they just immediately like look at their guns like they're not ready.
Being able to do follow-up attacks and essentially turning the hand-to-hand portion of the game into a fighting extravaganza was something I really enjoyed.
Yeah, it's insane.
It made melee combat feel viable when we run out of weapons, but it also removes some of the horror in not having any ammunition. Because when we run out of bullets, there's no fear left. We know we can just kill enemies with our fists to get more ammunition.
That's it.
We can also roll, dive, slide on the ground when running. There's a lot to this system in general, but its complexity betrays it in the end.
Ooh.
I know that defenders of this system will say that if you knew and mastered its complexity, then the system would show its promise.
Yes and no. I think something that we didn't use a ton, Shia and I, is the quick shot system. And the quick shot system helps a lot when there's minimal enemies because it immediately staggers them to the point where you can get a melee on them. However, it costs stamina, and you need stamina for things like melee attacks. So, yeah.
While I think this is true to a certain extent, I'll talk later about why that is an impractical prescription as a solution for the game.
Leon's like built around the quick shot system.
In the game is that most of its combat is taken up by fighting enemies that can shoot back at us.
Yes.
This game is split up into 4 campaigns, and each campaign will see us heading to multiple different locations. Each location usually has different enemies themed around the story and area that we're in.
Leon never deals with Chiato at all, does he? I don't think Leon ever deals with enemies that are shooting. I think the only time is when they have things like crossbows or like projectile vomit or something, you know?
Traditional zombies
I forgot I existed,
behave
yeah.
like we know and expect
The
them
quick
to.
shot.
Generally slow-moving beasts that wander towards us, hoping to feast on
that.
you.
But look at this jump.
Slow-moving beasts that wander.
That's crazy. Bro, that is insane.
Towards us, hoping to feast on human flesh. But the Chiato are new monsters created from the C virus. They act quite a lot like the Las Plagas enemies from the previous games. They can often wield weapons and mutate into more powerful versions of themselves. This is a big gameplay change that Resident Evil 6 introduces. The fact that attacking enemies will cause them to mutate in different ways. Certain mutations will cause their torsos to turn into a giant exploding pod. Others will grow empowered limbs, legs, or arms. And others will see them developing a shield that protects their body. This is an interesting dynamic for combat and gameplay, but the problem comes from the fact that most enemies mutate in some form like this.
Yes. Oh my God. By the end of the game, Shia and I complained about this over and over and over again, especially in Chris's campaign, how almost every single enemy was mutating in the final areas for Chris. It was insane how many. You know?
We're basically getting ready for every enemy to mutate.
Yeah.
The random appearance of mutated Ganados created anticipation and tension during combat. It introduced a certain amount of unpredictability to each scenario. These mutations here are more consistent, so each base form of enemy is just a formality, a first stage that we have to get past, not an enemy that we have to defeat. Top it off with the fact that we can't damage enemies during their mutation, and it creates a bad relationship with combat.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, during the transition of mutating, they have iframes, and they're invincible until the point that they're done mutating. So there were so many times where Shia and I were shooting enemies that probably weren't even taking damage.
Waiting for the mutations to be over slows down combat, and if we do shoot enemies too much in their mutation stage, we waste valuable ammunition.
Yes.
A lot of things in Resident Evil 6 slow down the pace of its own combat. Since there is a larger congregation of enemies that can shoot guns, we get shot pretty often. When we get shot for more than a few passing bullets, we get stunned and knocked down. This can also happen if we get kicked or attacked in a certain way. We can get grabbed by enemies, causing us to have to complete a QTE, which also stuns us for a few seconds. This might not seem like a lot when it's isolated, but if you take damage or get stunned a few times in a row, then it really starts to add up.
Over the course of the campaign, it adds
up the flow of combat and the game in general. Resident Evil 6 wants to have this quick, flowing, high-action pace, but it just constantly pulls us out of this flow.
There you go.
This is furthered by the immense amount of gimmick vehicle sections that the game has.
Why are there so many?
In Jake's chapter, often putting us in a car where we have to drive and hit certain jumps and objectives or avoid obstacles.
It's insane.
Hitting anything or going in the wrong way is pretty easy to do. What should be a quick, flowing action chase...
That right there, that happened to me so many times. You guys saw how many times I died during this freaking section. How salty I was. Yeah, the snowmobile section. Bro, this shit was ass. This shit was ass. It was so bad.
Sequence gets broken up by frustrating limitations that prevent this sequence from playing out.
Yeah.
This is just a trend that Resident Evil 6 holds across its entire playtime. The game actively feels like it doesn't want you to play it. Like it's set up to create this flow, and then it just breaks that flow at every possible turn. This creates a frustrating relationship.
These were also pretty shitty.
Where the game means for us to partake in these intense action sequences, but we're stopped by the very game that's asking us to do that. The game follows Resident Evil 5, though, in its co-op focus. We can play the entire game with 2 players, but we also have the option of playing the game solo.
Oh.
I am primarily reviewing the game from my perspective of playing the game by myself, but I did play through some of the game with a friend just to get the experience.
What'd you
Shout out
think?
to Evan Prince for helping me out.
Hey.
But much like Resident Evil 5, playing the game with another person doesn't remove the fundamental problems that the game has. And the AI in Resident Evil 6 is actually much better than previous games.
I do remember that being the case.
I don't think this is because the
Shia and I did play the entire game together, though, so we didn't have to deal with the what's it called at all. Oh, bye, Jungos. I can't believe you're leaving me already. Man, here I thought orcs liked me. I can't believe this. I can't believe it. Is Revelations 2 next in the playthrough, whenever that is? It should be, yeah. Shia and I are working out a time to make that work. I have to wait for him to come back from TwitchCon, which should be next week. But yeah, as soon as we figure out when that'll be, I'm sure we will let everybody know and we'll make it happen. I do like you though, my EP. That's crazy. It's like you don't even want to dream about sexy bunny men. That's crazy. Gotta sex whenever Jungles leaves, but Roy loves to watch him go. Might be the other way around. It's only better because they have unlimited ammo and don't die from normal combat. They're so vulnerable to insta-kills. Got it. I don't remember if they fixed the thing from 5 where AI companions can waste your resources, though. Someone was just saying that they can't. Because you can't trade resources in 6, which feels so stupid. You just can't give your partner anything. There's no swapping. So, yeah.
AI is actually improved, but because you have less interaction with the AI, you don't need to provide your partner with ammunition. You don't really even need to heal them. Your partner can still die in sequences where you're supposed to protect them and in some of the vehicle sections. But I never had my partner die in general combat one time in my almost 20-hour playthrough.
And I played more than Shia. I didn't play more. I died more than Shia did. So Shia was way better at staying alive than I was, you know.
Something that this game does introduce that I thought was interesting is the new healing method.
Mac is hard
Our
to
health
play.
is now represented by a bar rather than different colored heartbeat monitors. Each section of this bar can be filled up by 1 healing point. We can use healing points by combining herbs together as usual and placing them into our healing pack. We can then use each of these healing points to fill the bars even during combat. We can also use traditional healing sprays which fill the bar entirely. It's a decent system, and it gives us a better idea of exactly how much health we have at any point in the game.
And it's not bad. It's just like, it felt so arbitrary at times. Like, why is the maximum number of Tic Tacs that I can hold 17? And why are they Tic Tacs?
This obviously removes some of the horror from the game, but Resident Evil 6 is clearly trying to be an action game entirely.
Yeah, 100%.
There are a few points during its runtime where it feels like it's trying to build some tension and atmosphere, but that is far more rare than the moments that it's trying to generate speed and 100%. Intensity. There are many more problems with this game that mostly extend into specific examples of enemy design, environments, and story, but that means we need to talk about the narrative first.
Well said. Yeah, there are a lot of enemy types that were just straight up annoying and hard to deal with. But I think if you get into that point, like, you need to sit down and you need to go through every campaign. Leon's, oh my god. Leon's is so long comparatively. Leon starts at the 16-minute mark and ends at the hour 5 mark. That's crazy. I'm sorry, no. Sorry. At the 48-minute mark. Okay, sorry. I thought it was an hour long.
Evil 6 is spread across 4 campaigns.
I thought they were Mentos. I always say Tic Tacs. It's always funnier.
Its own narrative, gameplay style, and tone.
I like it.
I would generally assume that most people play these campaigns in the order that they're provided. Leon first, then Chris, Jake, and Ada.
Yeah.
That was the order that I played them in, and that's also the order that I'll be reviewing them in.
Anyway,
Leon's campaign technically begins with...
Listen, we played Chris first because I remembered Chris being the worst, and then we did Jake because we wanted to save Leon for last, okay? That's why we played it the way we did.
Prologue that serves as a tutorial for the game. We are shown a broken city in flames, explosions around, gunshots firing everywhere. We're given a first-person perspective of Leon, who is trying to save an unknown woman from the chaos.
Can we real talk? Do you think it would have been better if Leon's partner in this game was Claire? Do you think if Leon and Claire were back for this game, cut out Helena's plot, and instead, Leon and Claire were working together after almost 20 years, would have had more of a relationship with Chris's side, would have had more of a relationship with Sherry's side. I literally was just thinking about that because he was like, oh, yes, Leon with an unknown woman. Why was it not Claire? They brought so many other characters back. They brought Sherry back. Great. Even for Ada would have been better. Yeah. Or Leon and Sherry together. Yeah, but I think they needed Sherry to be part of the Jake team to give it like, remember when Sherry was a character in Resident Evil? You know?
This, of course, requires a ton of unnecessary QTEs that would put Heavy Rain to shame. And
Leon and Ada. Leon can't be with Ada.
Leon and Helena.
Only room for one Redfield. Wait. Code Veronica? Belmore? Huh? I don't like Ada. Mods destabilize their atoms. Would have changed much and it would have been better. Yeah.
Successfully avoid the helicopter that's shooting at them and head into a nearby passageway. We eventually find a dead BSAA soldier in a nearby vehicle, and Agent Kennedy contacts Hunnigan, who's back in the Sentry. For a bit of backstory that the game doesn't really tell you outside of the optional files in the menus, in the past few years, Leon Kennedy became a high-ranking agent in the government. He specifically works directly for the president, Adam Benford. He works in the FOS, or Field Operations Support, as their...
It's so funny, too, because this is the second president that he's working for, because it's been almost 10 years since Resident Evil 4. So obviously the previous president has finished their terms and done.
Their chief field agent. This team's main goal is to oversee agencies working to fight bioterrorism. The game shows us how to heal through a short tutorial section, and as Leon consoles Helena, he is attacked by a nearby zombie. After dealing with this, Leon tells Hunnigan they're heading to the quad tower that has some surviving agents. Leon and Helena weave through the chaos of the streets and are eventually cut off by a crashing plane. We have to make an escape.
If you think about it, Leon hasn't moved up at all since 4. I mean, he works directly for the president. In 4, it was more so, I think they sent him in as a like investigatory, and then they brought in the big guns. It's just, you know, it was easier for one man to infiltrate rather than an army. And then because of Resident Evil 4, he got higher up. Secret Service agent's pretty good. I think so too. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Code Veronica's right there, Belmore. That's what I'm saying. Can't believe Belmore forgot about Code Veronica. Listen, Capcom may forget, but I don't forget. We played that shit in one sitting. It was painful.
To the city and eventually board a helicopter with infected BSAA agents. We have to complete a ton more QTEs to try and maintain control of the plane while a BSAA agent attacks Helena. They eventually crash into a building and barely make it out alive before confronting a villain that they've fought before. This whole tutorial section is just a...
You're talking about Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. Infinite Darkness was okay. I didn't hate it. It didn't feel like it needed to be episodic. Yeah.
Brief flash forward. The campaign then flashes
That's your crossover as Leon and Jill. If we got Leon and Jill like we did in Death Island, I actually think that would have been dope. Because Death Island was... I did not hate Death Island. I think the character interactions were funny. I had a good time with it. You know, the action was fun for Resident Evil. It wasn't like amazing. Like Degeneration, I still think is the best Resident Evil CG movie. It's the first one they did, and then Damnation, which is the second one, and then I would probably put Death Island, then Infinite Darkness, and then Vendetta. Personally,
outbreak on June 29th in Tall
Good job,
Oaks,
Belmore.
USA. Leon and Helena are both in the Oval Office, and
What's
the
up,
president
Inugami?
is turned into a zombie.
Death Island
For
is a
some
movie
reason, Leon
on
hesitates
Netflix.
as long as possible before killing him. You know, the guy that's been dealing with outbreaks and BOWs for 15 years at this point. The guy that was there during the original Raccoon City outbreak. I understand that the president is supposed to be a close friend of his, but it honestly just makes Leon feel incompetent rather than emotional. They eventually...
I don't know if I agree with that. I might defend RE6 for once. Hey, DJ Shark Girl, welcome in, everybody. My name's Roy Chiato, like a macchiato. I'm a coffee-fueled bunny host with a serious passion for voice acting, and I love working out, in case you couldn't tell. Welcome, guys. We're watching a retrospective video on the behind-the-scenes of Resident Evil 6 since we finished this last week. We've been going through every mainline series Resident Evil game as we prepare for Resident Evil 9 coming out. So we finished up through 6 at this point, and now we're watching the retrospective on it. Yippee! Let's have some fun. Yeah, I'm gonna say, I think Leon having a little bit of hesitation is okay. Like, we saw him hesitate with fighting Ada. We've seen him hesitate with fighting Krauser. We've seen him hesitate when fighting Chris in this game. I'm just saying, Leon is human. I understand he's trained, but I do think that this was a warranted, justified stall tactic. You know? Also, new virus. Who knows? I'm just saying.
Actually have to kill the president, and Helena reveals that she was involved in this somehow, culpable for the outbreak that they're seeing.
Yeah.
She tells Leon that she'll tell him everything once they get to the cathedral in town. Hunnigan introduces Leon to Helena, our partner for this campaign, and an agent for the Secret Service.
It is always weird to me that she's just in the office with Leon at the time, and then Helena is like, oh, yes, Agent Hunnigan. And Hunnigan's like, Leon, that's Agent Helena Harper.
They tell her that the president is dead, and she tells them to get out of the city. Helena lies to Hunnigan and tells her that they have to head to the cathedral because Leon has a lead. This is the incredibly weak hook for the first half of Leon's campaign.
Yes. Clock it.
And it is awful.
Yeah.
There are very few narrative developments in the first few hours outside of Helena saying, I'll tell you everything at the cathedral.
Oh my God. Shia and I kept saying this to each other too, because the entirety of the time that you're playing Resident Evil 6, Leon's campaign especially, is Helena just won't say anything. Despite there being long segments of there doesn't need to be silence. Like, they could talk, you know?
There's no good reason for this, by the way. It's just a really cheap and generic way of generating a hook for the game. I can't tell you now. I can only tell you when we get there.
Yeah.
It's just so that this game can generate a twist that isn't even consequential and involves characters that we don't meet until that very scene.
Helena's sister, specifically.
Creates terrible pacing for Leon's narrative that makes it feel like nothing is happening for the first half of it, because nothing is happening for the first.
Literally a huge agree. I know I keep pausing a lot. I like talking about Resident Evil 6 because I'm very opinionated about this franchise, and I friggin' love it. Resident Evil 6 especially, there's so much there's just so much crap about it. As much as we like rag on this intro and this hook, it sucks because like we all talked about how Leon's campaign is the best, and we're immediately ragging on it. You know, we're immediately going, man, this hook sucks. This hook is weak. It doesn't pay off. It's inconsequential. And we're still like, man, Leon's campaign is the best.
First half of it. And Leon never questions this. He never says, hey, just fucking tell me whatever the big secret is now so we can get on with this.
Just put a gun to her head.
Outside of the office, we see that a banquet was about to take place that was interrupted by the current outbreak. We have an incredibly slow walking section here, weaving through balconies and tables. The game feels like it's trying to build tension, but it never really works. This also introduces the cluttered and near schizophrenic environment design that this game has.
That I will agree with.
The environment looks good. There is ample detail present, and they feel genuine. But this opposes the ability for these environments to clearly telegraph what the player should naturally be going. In place of these, Resident Evil 6 introduces a waypoint system and an overlay that allows the player to see the direction they need to go, effectively removing the player from the environment and placing them in another one that does guide them through, but much more obviously.
It is very frustrating. Shia and I had several situations, especially when we were in the China sections, the China chapters of Resident Evil 6 with Leon and Helena, where you're in the marketplace, and you have to go get the 3 keys. And we were just like, we have no idea where to go, so we had to hold up the thing so we could get way markers of where to go. I feel like if we ever got this remade, they'd have to make an overhaul for the entire narrative. Oh, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, because one of the big hooks for Resident Evil 6's story is that the president was going to reveal the truth behind the Raccoon City incident to the world, and his cabinet and people that are part of Neo Umbrella did not want him to do that, so they had him killed in a bioterrorism attack, and were able to bolster their own power because of that. But in our current Resident Evil timeline, in the Resident Evil remake games, I believe it's already been declassified to the public that Umbrella was behind it, and that the U.S. government destroyed Raccoon City with a thermobaric bomb. Like, it's already been revealed. It's already out there. So literally the whole reason why a villain exists in Resident Evil 6 cannot exist in a Resident Evil 6 remake. I'm pretty certain. So they would have to completely rewrite Simmons and a lot of the other stuff. But then I think the problem that they would run into is twofold, because then they'd have to make it like Revelations. And Revelations is also messy. How involved the U.S. was in causing Raccoon City, not that Raccoon City happened. Oh, sorry. That's what I meant, but thank you for clarifying, Trey. I appreciate it.
Good environment design should use funnels and guideposts to push the player in the right direction without pulling the player out of the world. Of course, games will sometimes give players waypoints as a backup in case a player gets lost and doesn't know where to go.
Race people to knock over the chair. That's funny.
Relying on this solely for navigation means that the player is removed from the environment. Their immersion is broken. Helena and Leon eventually find a member of the presidential party that seems to be coughing and infected, but he hasn't turned yet. He wants to find his daughter Liz that's somewhere nearby. This guy runs off and we have to follow him throughout the building. Leon wants to help him because he's a natural hero, a good guy. We eventually find his daughter in a room with a few other people who have already died. We guide them back to the elevator.
Is there ever an explanation aside from these are the main characters that Leon and Helena don't get infected? Is it just like the gas has dissipated? Does it have like an airborne life expectancy? Wasn't Neo Umbrella only Carla's thing? No one else was in Neo? I think so. Nope. Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, I think you're right, Coco. Plot armor? That sounds right. That sounds right, wild card. Commander Shepard syndrome? I fucking love steak.
But Liz turns and attacks her own father.
Ooh.
We of course kill Liz and are eventually introduced to the hordes
I will also say
us outside.
This was a great introduction to zombies, and I like this too.
To swarm the place. One pro that I will give Leon's campaign is that, at least for the first half of it, it's the most that it feels like a traditional Resident Evil game.
True.
Watching this outbreak happen and actually fighting zombies again does harken back to the original Raccoon City trilogy. The atmosphere that the game is trying to generate does work for this sequence. And
this
just
one
looking at this
specifically.
footage, it feels like the series returning to its roots.
But
it doesn't last long.
Yeah.
And it also introduces one of the biggest problems with this game that I would say is mostly localized to Leon's playthrough.
Oh.
Most of the environments in this game are just way too dark. They're even dark when we have a flashlight on, which isn't able to be toggled. It's just situational and done for us.
Normally I would say just turn up your brightness, but as he says that, I'm going to be real. I actually think I remember one or two situations with Shia and I complaining that it was really dark, and then we got jumped by an enemy because we couldn't see the enemy. And then like a couple steps after the enemy, we automatically toggled on our flashlights and there was no way to toggle it beforehand. I actually think I remember this exact situation. Wait, he's so right. Yeah, how did the gas not get to Leon and Helena? Helena abandoned her post intentionally, but she changed her mind and rushed to save the president. How did she not get gassed? That's what I'm saying. And Leon was just there. We never like did Leon show up late? Was he incompetent? Was the president directly infected? Did someone inject him with something? Poison his food? It's crazy. The lighting was always my complaint with the original. Oh, in original RE6, yeah. With brightness high up, it's still dark, I bet.
The brightness doesn't really affect this either. The game is just incredibly dark, and it's so bad at certain points that it prevents you from navigating through environments.
Yeah.
In the next scene, Leon's good guy instincts are showcased even further because he wants to go save two men who are clearly already being attacked by zombies.
Yeah, they're dead.
Helena wakes him up, though, telling him that they're already dead and it's futile.
Yeah, they're dead.
We eventually make it out of the building and into the nearby campus grounds.
I will say that is a better like show of Leon wants to be here. Like, come on, like we can like do something, and Helena being like, they're dead, Leon. Like, it's okay. You got to let them go. That is good because then he doesn't do anything stupid. And then from that point, it's all right, we're in this. I got to make better decisions now.
We have to escape by heading into another building and getting a key. We get fed into an alleyway, running away from zombies, and get into a car.
This is so
A
dumb.
QTE sequence gets us control of the vehicle, but Leon manages to crash the car almost immediately, causing the two to head into the nearby sewers.
And somehow it explodes and does not. It only explodes right here, but not here at all, despite the windows being completely gone.
Once again, Helena reiterates that she'll tell Leon everything once they get to the cathedral. We get a flashback to Leon's conversation with the president before he was infected. The president was planning on telling the world about what happened in Raccoon City. Apparently, the public doesn't know what really happened, and people were against the president coming out with this info. But he felt like this was the right decision, to start working with the world instead of for themselves. This obviously didn't work out in the end, but we jump back to the present where Leon and
so
Helena
hot. I
are
agree.
in the underground tunnels beneath
concur.
the city. These lead into a railway system where we have to deal with zombies and dodge trains.
I hate this train
system. This leads us to the train station, and Leon tries to save a woman here, but she is unfortunately killed by her own stupidity.
Yeah.
Wait, no! Don't open that! Oh God, Peter! Peter, hang on! I'm coming!
We end up weaving through the city streets and get to partake in one of the worst sections in this campaign. Leon and Helena happen upon an area with a few survivors, making a last stand against the
Wait, why is this one of the worst sections in the game? Wait, I kind of enjoyed this part.
Infected. We have to protect them and make sure they don't get killed. We then head into a nearby gun store.
Oh, this part specifically, where it's just cabin fight from Resident Evil 4.
Make another last stand defense against zombies in the first floor of this building.
Yeah.
And then another one upstairs.
Yeah.
And then another one on the roof.
Yeah.
Most of the objectives in Leon...
You know, he might have a point. Never mind. Redacted.
On story fall into the category of defend until the game tells you that you're done.
Leon aged like fine wine.
It's incredibly tedious and slows down the pace of the game, even though this should be intense action. It's also just repetitive and mostly revolves around a ton of characters that we literally just met and don't matter at all.
Yeah, none of these characters
matter. This would be
matter.
like if in Resident Evil 2, we spent 30 minutes at Kendo's gun shop and just killed zombies and then Kendo died. The other problem is that we're around an hour.
Wow, it really... Wait, he's so right. It is exactly like that. We meet these random characters that all just end up dying anyway. Whoa.
Leon's campaign, and we've already been to the government building, the campus, the city streets, the gun shop, and we'll go to many different areas throughout the rest of the story. But Resident Evil 6 has a problem of never letting a location sink in. We're never given time to get to know an area. This has the advantage of never allowing us to grow comfortable anywhere, but it also means that these environments are meaningless to us.
They really
start
are.
To blur together. When I started writing...
The most like... notable areas are the ones you're probably like, oh, thank God that's over, or the ones that like gave you the most trouble.
The script for this video, I was reviewing the footage that I
true.
had recorded and realized I forgot large swaths of the game because most of it is just so forgettable. And it wasn't like I played it a week before I started writing. I finished it the day before.
Whoa.
During the escape, we're introduced to big fat zombies, which are sort of the stronger high defense zombie of this campaign. We get out of the area by getting into a bus, and Hunnigan contacts our partners again. She says that 90% of Tall Oaks has been infected, and some group called Neo Umbrella is claiming responsibility.
Neo Umbrella?
Leon is getting deja vu because of the current events, which remind him too much of Raccoon
where everybody
City.
dies. You have no choice
Hunnigan
at all.
tells Leon to get the info that's in the cathedral because some suits are breathing down her neck.
It's trying to be Raccoon City by design.
She's specifically referring to a man named Derek C. Simmons, an aide to the now dead president. The bus then arrives into town and we are attacked once again. The two manage to escape the horrific crash, and Helena reiterates the only part of her character, Cathedral Woman.
Wait.
We have to get to the cathedral.
Damn.
To hurry. Not before we check out Tall Oak's cathedral. Come on. Let's just get to the cathedral.
Wait.
And I'll tell you everything.
That is insane. I mean, listen. When we joke about Helena not having a character, we're not kidding. We're not joking. That is her. That's her character. Is Simmons the one that makes the umbrella logo? Yep, that's him. That is him.
Cut through a nearby cemetery to get there, but we have to get a key to get in, which causes us to backtrack all the way through the area again. This section introduces undead zombies that have crawled out from graves, decomposed corpses that shamble towards us. They also introduce the zombie dogs of this entry, mutated beasts that lunge and snap. This is another pretty dark area, though, only lit by the lightning flashes in the sky.
I will also say, is there ever a reason or explanation as to why some of these zombies are crawling up out of their graves? The C virus should not be permeating like that. It should not be going underground. And then we find them literally underground too.
Once we finally get to the
either.
cathedral, we have to suffer another defense scenario at the doors of the building.
Love it.
We deal with some more difficult mutations here. In particular,
are there alternate costumes in RE6? There are, right? No. Yes, I think there are. Isn't this where Chris's sailor uniform is? Where it's like his really skimpy, barely fits. One of the buttons looks like it's about to burst off sailor uniform. Because his tits are so big. Or is that in Revelations? I can never remember. Resident Evil Chris sailor outfit. I think that's Revelations. Yeah, that's Revelations. Listen, Sailor Chris is the best.
The Bloodshot, which is a more powerful and agile type of BOW. The Shrieker is also
Wait a minute.
A
what did he
more
throw?
Powerful and
it was an incendiary. I was so confused.
BOW. The Shrieker is also introduced here, a zombie that can call zombies in the area and make them more powerful and harder to stun. A lot of the zombies introduced in this game feel like they're pulled straight from Left 4 Dead. But both of these mutations
Pavan immediately listen. Listen, it's not my fault that the way to a man's heart is behind, it's in the
things, because we have to target them before other zombies to ensure we don't end up in a hairy situation. It changes gameplay in a way that makes you focus on specific enemies rather than just the zombie that's closest to you. Once we actually enter the cathedral, we find a group of survivors holed up.
Personality, yes.
They are disappointed that Leon and Helena are not a rescue crew. Our goal is to get inside of the secret entrance in the altar here, but to do this, we have to solve a puzzle around the facility. It's a pretty simple one. We just need to collect some statues and place them on some daises around the area. I like the finale of this section, though, because we're given a new enemy to face off against as a sort of mini-boss. This is the Lepotitsa, a beautifully designed enemy covered in holes that emit a toxic gas that kills anyone who inhales it and turns them into an infected. This was how the outbreak in Tall Oaks began. This beast and its toxins have a 3-mile radius. Someone planted this thing here to cause an outbreak in this area, and it wreaks havoc on the cathedral.
Wait. Is that what happened? Is that actually what happened? Because why is it underground then? Did they just go pick it up again? Releasing the church wandering around and releasing the gas, I guess. That doesn't sound right. Yeah, because it's like we have to completely do a puzzle. There's more than one. There's definitely more than one. I don't think it's this one. Okay, that makes more sense.
Killing and turning all of the survivors in here. It's kind of a dark moment because only one of these things had to break in to completely destroy everything.
Also, I think Belmore brought this up too when we were talking about it in passing. This whole scene kind of sucks because like Leon and Helena are like, everyone take cover, like be calm, don't breathe in the gas, and everyone's fucking dead already. Like there's one survivor, and then you kill this thing, and everyone else is just dead, and there's no comments, and it's Leon and Helena's fault. It is literally Leon and Helena's fault, and they never have a moment of like, oh my god, what did we do? It's crazy.
Once we finally defeat it, we can get underground into some sort of lab or structure. As we get further in, Helena says that she remembers this place. She was here before, but for no reason, she still refuses to elaborate.
I was going to say
2 hours into the game, and the only
2 hours
information
in
we've gotten is that we need to get to the cathedral, which is where we currently are. This plot is infuriating.
Yeah.
Helena makes a run for it, looking for someone named Deborah, who will soon be revealed to be her sister. We eventually arrive at a lab. Grotesque test subjects are propped up on beds. We eventually find a room full of tubes and subjects inside. Leon comes across a VHS titled Happy Birthday Ada Wong. It's a video of something hatching from a strange carapace, a C virus experiment. It turns out to be a woman that Leon knows. Ada Wong. Leon asks Helena if this is what she brought him here to see, but she denies it.
You can save 2 women for a green and red herb.
This is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We find a shaft that gives way to a large underground
if everyone
mine.
else dies, that sucks. There's like 20 people in
Deborah,
there.
Who's unconscious in one of these rooms. She wakes up since her sister has arrived to save her, and suddenly Helena changes the fucking goalpost again. Now we have to get Deborah out of here before she'll tell us everything. We have
how do we get Deborah out of here?
Down this massive chasm while Helena carries Deborah on her back. Once we reach the bottom, it becomes clear that Deborah is infected. She turns into some sort of cocoon and rehatches from it, completely transformed into a new boss that we have to fight. She is impaled by Ada Wong, who is waiting in the wings.
So someone said they're an ad, so we're gonna wait for a second. I love Ada just coming in here out of nowhere, and my idea or my headcanon in that is that Ada is just following Leon, like to make sure that he's okay. Leon's in Tall Oaks and they attack Tall Oaks with the C virus. I better go make sure Leon's okay. You know? And that's when Leon gets confused. When does he get confused? What do you mean? At least the ads are playing 80s music. I'll give you that. I do like some 80s music. You know? 2 Adas. Ada be doing that all the time. True. Didn't they kiss in RE2? Yeah, in Remake they did. Oh, don't shoot my glowing orbs. I'd hate that. Yeah. When you guys are free from ads on Twitch, let me know. And in the original, did they kiss in the original? I didn't remember. I know in the Leon B scenario. Yes, listen, I'll take your word for it. It has been 3 months since we played Resident Evil 2 original. Actually, it's been 3 months, which is kind of crazy. Isn't it insane to think that we started Resident Evil 1 5 months ago? 5 months we started Resident Evil 1. 5 months. Wait, I'm actually going to pull up the playlist real quick. Playlist, Resident Evil. It was May 9th was the first part of Resident Evil 1. And then May 16th was the second part. And then after that, every Resident Evil stream from there on was a one-shot. Every single one. Which is insane. What a journey, geez, yeah. I can't wait for RE9 to come out. I'm so excited for that. That might be a beat this in one sitting stream as well. Just for the sake of like, I'm gonna do everything 100% and I'm gonna play the shit out of this game when it comes out. You know? I'm gonna take a day off from work. I want to make sure that I have ample time set aside, you know? I think that'll be awesome. 5 months and yet still no Gaiden. Find me a way of playing Gaiden that does not include emulating the GB. Where's my Steam port? Where's my Steam port of Gaiden, Ryuhi? Besides, it's not canon. It's not part of the mainline series. It can't be because of the ending. Yeah, what a journey, geez. All right, you guys are back from ads now on Twitch, right? Ads are over. Capcom, get on it. That's what I'm saying. Listen. You're so real for that. Yeah, back. Okay, cool.
The game treats this as a really emotional moment.
Yeah, it does.
This puts into focus how little we've learned about Helena and how little her character has been developed across Leon's campaign.
Bro, it is so funny because Shia pointed this out too, and Shia was like, who cares? Or something like that. Like, oh, shut up. I'll call in my favors I was going to use for God Hand 2 just for the port of Gaiden for you, for my friend. Wait, instead of that, could you do it for Outbreak and Outbreak 2? I think that would be better. As much as like the meme of Gaiden would be dope, could we do Outbreak and Outbreak 2 or an Outbreak remake? You know, or Outbreak HD, you know, something like that. I'm just saying.
She is originally introduced as a Secret Service agent by Hunnigan, and this is just about how much we learn about her in 2.5 hours.
That's it.
We learn that she has a sister named Deborah, and she is mutated, but that's about it.
That's it.
Helena feels like she's a blank partner that's just there to serve as a way to give this campaign co-op.
I like
she doesn't
Gaiden.
really
It's kind of trash,
feel
but
like
impressive what they managed to pull off. I get you.
There will be more developments to her character as the story goes on, but most of it only happens in the second half of the campaign. So for the beginning portion of the game, she's just there.
Yes. And every time I was complaining about Helena, so many people were like, why do you hate Helena so much? Like, what's all this Helena hate? I remember so many comments being like that, people chatting. And I was just like, bro, like, come on.
After Ada arrives, the cavern that we're in begins to collapse. Deborah then wakes up, and we have our boss.
I like Gaiden. It's kind of trash.
She has tendrils on her back, and we have to target the pods.
I just think Outbreak might
Suddenly,
be
the roof begins to fall, and
might be
we're
more
separated
received
from
well.
Helena and have to team up with Ada to get to the bottom of this structure. When we get to the bottom, we finish our boss fight with Helena. She isn't quite dead yet, though, because we jump into a minecart and deal with a pretty similar section to Resident Evil 4, but it isn't really as complicated as that game because we have no enemies to really contend with.
It's just wait.
Deborah does show up again.
Wait, that's another perfect example of what he was talking about. They love to set up these cool action set pieces and then just do nothing with them. And in the minecart, you are waiting so long. Sometimes it was like 20, 30 seconds before Deborah would show up.
This track, and we have to shoot her pods while moving. After the minecart crashes, she attacks Helena, and we have to protect
Helena
her.
enters Helena on the sex
Deal
appeal.
the finishing blow to her sister.
I don't think they had to worry about Helena being the sex appeal. I'm just saying. I listen, crazy thing. I don't think they had to worry about Helena being the sex appeal.
Blow to her
I'm just
sister.
saying.
This leads to an emotional sequence that doesn't really hit.
Also, Ada's right there.
Where Helena has to let her sister fall down the cavern. Again, we aren't familiar with these characters, and we aren't close to them.
Here's the appeal for me.
To this scene, it's just a tropey standard copy and paste.
I mean, Ada's also really hot.
It. The lighting in the scene is
pansexuality.
pretty cool, though. We do actually get some explanation after this. Helena has a flashback to being trapped in this underground lab by Simmons. Simmons had used her sister as a reason to convince Helena to work with her. She was told that the only way she could save her was to follow his orders. Simmons told her to give false orders to the Secret Service that would cause them to be away from the president for long enough for Simmons to release the infection and effectively kill the president. She admits this to Leon and Ada, finally letting them in on what's happening.
Boss fight.
Leon doesn't understand
Capcom
why Simmons would do this since he works for the government, but Ada tells them they're fighting against the people who really run this country from behind the scenes.
It's really funny because I did mention that during the Revelations playthrough, but like, I'd say like early 2010s, Capcom was like, I don't know what Capcom was going through, man. There were so many things in Street Fighter, in Resident Evil, like they were going crazy. Like, oh my God. I mean, like, not all of it's bad. You know, listen, I enjoy a bit of sex appeal. I enjoy a bit of horny. I enjoy a bit of spice. I enjoy a bit of fan service and horniness. It's just sometimes it's like, damn, why is this boss naked and why does she wobble every single time she steps? This is Resident Evil. I didn't realize this was Resident Titties. Insane.
And without elaborating, she leaves. Hunnigan then calls in and Leon tries to warn her about Simmons, but he's already there. He tells Leon and Helena that they are suspects in the president's death mainly this attack. Helena accuses him
vampire
of the
lady
attack,
and all of
but
us
he
of six that
denies
never
this
left. Okay, listen. While I do agree with you, I do think it's crazy to say because it's like if you play Resident Evil 7 and you play Resident Evil 8, it's a different kind. 7 and 8 do not have nearly as much as like 5 and 6 and Revelations. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. And Street Fighter 4 and 5, I think may have been technically more horny than 6. You know?
Works for the government. He would never do
just
that.
saying.
Simmons orders them to turn themselves in, but our new goal is to get out of here.
Simmons.
We find out that all of this
Chris.
land belongs to Simmons, even the catacombs that we're adventuring through right now. We have to travel through this area, avoiding a variety of traps and mechanisms designed to keep us out. Blades that we have to slide under, fire traps we have to use to defend our position, and splitting the party to open gates.
Shia just cranking it while I'm dealing with zombies.
Are actually decently designed and play well off of the co-op structure that Resident Evil 5 introduced.
I do not disagree with that at all. I do think some of these segments were kind of fun, but I will say this is definitely one of the levels / areas that felt like it way overstayed its welcome. Because, like, remember, this is like after you did the lab to find Deborah, then fell down the mine shaft with Deborah, and then somehow stumbled upon an ancient catacomb that has technology in it that's all like renovated to work. Like, what? SF6 doesn't have Armika after all. It does have Sea Viper now, though, or at least it will shortly. She looks dope. She looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. Jamie is still my character in Street Fighter 6, though. So,
but this section does start to drag on after
yes,
a while.
I wrote the script.
It just keeps going on for far too long, a problem that this campaign has in general.
I wrote the script.
Once we reach the end, jumping over chasms and running away from boulders.
What about Ed?
We fall down a...
I wanted it to be Ed, but Street Fighter, I just couldn't. I can't get into Ed in Street Fighter 6. It's Jamie. Jamie is the character that I like the most in 6. Even he's not the best. He's definitely way better than he was when the game first came out. Jamie is significantly better. I don't think he may not be bottom 5 anymore, but he's definitely fun and I love him. So,
natural water slide. This sends us into
done without the
underwater
QTE shark
section
fight.
where we
I
have
agree.
to keep going up for air at certain points. Helena and Leon are eventually attacked by an underwater monster, the Burzak. A mutated fish whale thing almost attacks Helena, and Leon stabs it while it swims through the water. We run away from...
Also, there's no way. They're just dead. They do not survive this. There's no way.
From the BOW and eventually get chased down
You
another
know,
slide,
there's just no
shooting
way.
a barrel of TNT to blast the creature in the face. We manage to defeat it, but arriving in the lake, Leon and Helena see an explosion off in the distance. Simmons is trying to destroy any evidence of the
Burzak
outbreak
sounds like
in the
a
area,
black metal band.
cleaning
That
up
sounds
all
pretty
his
cool.
crimes. Hunnigan calls in, telling the two that Simmons left and is heading to China. She sends them pictures of a bioterrorism attack there, using the same virus that was detected a few months ago in Eastern Europe, called the C virus. But our heroes are in a predicament. They need to
Convenient
stop
Donkey Kong
Simmons
barrel,
and
true.
take him
Giant
into
barrel level
custody,
TNT, so
but they
incredible
have no
silly. Yeah, where did that fucking barrel come from? It felt like they were trying to recreate the crocodile from Resident Evil 2.
evidence. They are the main suspects for the outbreak, and Simmons controls the
A mile
prosecutors.
underground and end up at that lake.
essentially.
Yeah, you're so far underground and somehow end up here, and you're like sliding down even more. The gravity of this none of this shit makes sense.
So Leon tells Hunnigan to fake
I
their
threw it.
deaths so
Thanks,
they can
Grubbles.
head to China.
I appreciate it.
It's a stupid solution, which feels like Resident Evil levels of stupid, but more in an action movie style than the world-ending drama we got
Yeah.
at the end of Resident Evil 5.
Yeah.
Leon and Helena
Sliding
are on
upwards.
a plane
Ah, my
headed
bad.
to China, but their flight is immediately interrupted as the pilot has begun to transform into another Lepotitsa. Maybe if his co-pilot had the confidence to speak his mind, this wouldn't have happened. We have to guide the monster to the back of the plane and send it out the hatch, but every passenger has already been infected. Leon eventually takes control of the plane.
Every other passenger on this really fancy flight is already dead. Once again, Leon and Helena.
And lands it in
This
cargo
one's not their
area.
fault, but still.
When they
happen to
land,
be
the
here.
first crossover with another campaign happens. They meet Jake and Sherry,
Isn't that technically wrong, though? Because Ada was there? But I guess...
who will be the
maybe
two
not.
main characters
Whatever.
in Jake's campaign. But clearly,
What
we
are the
have no
devices? Yeah,
idea
iPhone
what's going
234.
on in their
I like
story,
that.
so
That's good.
it's just sort of random characters overlapping into ours for a moment. I think there is a good way to do multiple campaigns and point of view characters overlapping.
No, it's the
but Resident Evil
2-4-3-4?
just sort of sloppily puts them together for no reason other than to make us
we go.
think that this is some large interweaving
iPhone
tale with a
2434.
massive scope. Sherry obviously already knows Leon because this is Sherry Birkin, the young girl that we rescued in Resident Evil 2. Since we last saw her, she became a member of the BSAA. Leon tells her that Simmons is behind all of this.
So she is part of the BSAA.
Jake and Sherry are on their way to meet him right now.
I thought she was part of national security. Which is the truth and which is the lie? I thought she was part of BSAA, and then at some point she says national security. Whatever.
Jake seems protective of Sherry for some reason, but a BOW shows up to...
Okay, don't say for some reason. Okay, that was a good point. That was a good moment for Jake. Okay, let him have that moment.
Break up the party.
Sherry's only with national security. That's what I
we'll
thought.
Become more familiar with when we talk about Jake's chapter, but it's basically this game's version
of
a
mistake.
The Nemesis monster. We have a long battle where we have to attack it, but we can't really defeat it. We managed to stop it for now and are separated from Sherry and Jake.
I hate this thing.
We're heading to the Kwun Lung building to...
I will fully admit I hate this thing. When you drill into it with Jake and Sherry using like literally the mining drill, that thing's dead. Like, not even Birkin would have come back from that. No, there's no way.
Meet with Simmons. We have to weave through the nearby city to try and get to this building and catch
Nemesis all over again. Not even
nearby in a
not
market.
Even a good
we
way
have
though.
To find 3 keys to unlock a door, but there's a new enemy here, the Rasklapanye. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. They're sort of like regenerators in that they can regenerate parts of their body when damaged. They can't actually be killed here. We can only destroy parts of their body that separate from them when they are hurt. This means we mostly have to avoid them running around this market to get keys. This is an incredibly annoying sequence as well because we will inevitably get tackled by these things and have to QTE fight out of it.
Whoa, that's crazy.
It's just so tedious and completely misunderstands the tension of the regenerator in Resident Evil 4.
I agree.
After we get through the market, Helena and Leon see
Ada
like
the big tension and scare from the regenerator is being in these like tight corridors, no electricity, and before you even see them, you're just hearing like it's so creepy, and they don't sell that at all here.
Heading into a nearby warehouse. She puts us into some sort of Saw-type mini-game where we shoot robots that explode if touched, so they bounce into another room where another group is doing the same thing.
Wow, that's crazy.
Once we get out of this trap, Leon and Helena cross paths with Chris and Perry, the stars of their own...
Perry. Put some respect on my man Pierce. What the hell? My man's did not last through a game and a live action stage play to be called Perry. If he calls him Perry during like that campaign section too, I will lose my mind.
Campaign we'll talk about next. Chris is searching for Ada and tries to kill her for some reason. Leon and Chris get into a fight over this.
This is their first in-game interaction that they have too, like that we've seen.
Leon tries to tell Chris that
it is
Ada
a cool
didn't
fight.
Cause the outbreak, that Simmons did, but he won't listen. Leon and Chris are trauma comparing, but neither of them will
let up. Thigh hard. It should have been me.
I lost over 70,000 people, including the president, because of Simmons.
He still vows to protect Ada, that he has feelings for her that he just can't let go.
Kiss, kiss, kiss. I agree. But more importantly, guys, thank you for coming to my TED Talk today. Today I'm going to be explaining to you why Leon would absolutely destroy Chris, and it's not even...
This stare down finally ends when Ada drops a flashbang and makes her escape. Leon and Chris part at this point.
RE6 only exists to justify that scene.
And Leon vowing to take down Simmons.
It's a pretty good scene.
Basically, nothing has changed, and they're still both going to do what they were already going to do. We then leave the warehouse and find the meeting that Simmons
Wow,
is
wait,
at.
that's true. The cutscene doesn't change anything. Like, that entire section doesn't change anything.
We interrupt it with Sherry and Jake arriving in the middle. Simmons.
Chris punches boulders for fun, Roy. Okay, Leon went to another country and fought a cult using prehistoric parasites and mind control and zombie outbreaks and was trained by the Secret Service and had a secret mission in South America where his mentor figure got infected and Leon didn't. Listen, I'm just saying. I'm not saying that Chris is underqualified. I'm not saying that Chris is weak. But Leon just has so much more training. Can he bunch boulders? No, but if Chris can't hit Leon, then it doesn't fucking matter. Chris does not have the training that Leon has. Chris has general military training, which is great. But Leon has been like way, way more situations. I'm just saying. I'm dying on the sale. Leon wins.
His soldiers to
Leon wins, and they're
Sherry
both
gives
hot.
Leon and Helena a drive with information.
They're
that
both
can stop
hot.
The C virus. She was here to give it to Simmons, but Leon.
Chris was roid raging at the time. Leon is cool headed at all times. Well, Chris isn't roid raging. This is after he was amnesiac and he's come back from being an amnesiac. So he's at least minimum 6 months clean. I'm just saying.
Leon is taking it now.
I'm just joking around.
Simmons
Yeah,
is
I
then
figured.
suddenly attacked by mystery assailants and injected.
Oh
with
yeah,
something.
Shia and I accidentally skipped this cutscene.
He jumps onto a train and we follow him. We see a call between Simmons and a mystery third party who claims to be behind Simmons' plans unraveling. She's transformed him to show him the monster that he always was.
That's crazy.
Simmons reveals that Ada was
Steve will beat them
behind
both
this,
clearly.
and also his own motivations. He didn't want the president revealing what happened with Raccoon City because he believes it would have ended the world. Simmons then mutates into
If he
his
were
first
alive,
monstrous
maybe.
form, a wolf-like beast that can run incredibly fast and charges right at us. We fight him across the train, and he eventually chases us on the
so
track,
stupid.
shooting shards of bone from his appendages.
I think that's sick. First of all, that is such a cool, like, they're using bone fragments as bullets. That's so fucking cool. However, what the fuck is that? There's no, like, biology will not make that.
I have to admit that a lot of the boss designs in this game are actually pretty great.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they're so, like, I absolutely, 100%, I will say this point blank. Turn your brain off when you look at the designs. Forget reality, forget whatever else there is. That's just a dope design. Like,
The biggest
look at that shit. That shit is so cool. Does it make sense for Resident Evil? Hell no. Does it look cool? Hell yeah. Rule of cool.
bright point for the game in general are the enemy designs.
Yeah.
Even the transformations of the basic enemies, the grotesque zombies, the Chiato, the bosses, they all look really good.
I'll agree.
I've already talked about how they don't work functionally, but they do work really well in an aesthetic way.
I agree.
mean, what's cooler than shooting out shards of your own bones?
Yes.
We have
Forget conservation of mass. That is a part that I will always complain about, because he went from this to this thing, and that's already pretty fucking big. Immediately, that's a pretty big fucking jump. You know, I'm okay with it in Resident Evil 4 when what's it called? Salazar transforms, because there's like a big giant mass that he's joining with. I'm okay when Sadler does it, because he has the master parasite with him. You know, we don't know what the parasite's been doing. And I'm even okay with it with Birkin and Nemesis mutating, because they have been slowly mutating over time. This is instant and immediate gain in mass, and it's a virus, not a... Oh, I guess it is Plagas type 2, isn't it? Or is it just C virus? It's not Plagas type 2 anymore, is it? It's just C virus. Yeah, so never mind. Fuck that. There's no parasite. It's just a virus. Man. Fuck me.
eventually confront
Anyway.
Simmons on top of
Oh, wait a minute. Whoa. One of the changes on YouTube is they added... You can see how far back and how forward I'm seeking. Wait, that's awesome. Wait, I like that. Because I do that a lot, where I go back and forward. I like that.
the train and we run him over with the vehicle. Leon and Helena jump off the train and land in the lake. This is the exact...
What about Birkin? Birkin's also over time. It's out the entire course of the game that he is transforming. And that's like, I'm okay with it because it's not immediate. It takes time. And even then, not until final Birkin is he like massive, you know?
Point where this campaign should have ended. As bad as it was so far, that honestly feels like a finale for this chapter.
It did.
But unfortunately, it just keeps going.
Yes.
Leon and Helena get into the city, determining that this conflict is over, but Hunnigan contacts them to say that Jake and Sherry
absolutely lucky they didn't hit the cables jumping.
Field.
Yeah.
They check the files and realize that the key to stopping the C virus is Jake himself. Leon is patched through to Chris, but he warns Leon that a missile is heading into the city. It launches a toxic gas on the entire...
The timing of that sound effect going off, hitting when he put the freaking chip in, I'm screaming.
Town that begins to turn everyone into infected.
That's insane.
There's a pretty decent outbreak scene here that rivals even some of the earlier games. Leon tells Chris to go rescue Sherry and Jake, who it's revealed is Albert Wesker's son. Very random. Jake has...
I wonder if they did that because they just wanted to have beef between Chris and Jake, or if Jake was always supposed to be Wesker's son. Is there a world where like Jake isn't Wesker's son? That's interesting. Thank you for the combo level 1. Is it movie prime time? It's just movie time. Movie time.
Antibodies for this new antivirus, so Chris and Perry head to get them. Before he leaves, though,
he said Perry again. He said Perry. Does he wait, did he actually think his name was Perry? Wait, does he have a pinned comment about this? No one calling him out for saying Perry. Bro, justice for Pierce.
So he tells Leon that Ada Wong is dead. We weave through the city a bit.
That's right, Perry written in the script that never corrected. True.
Soldiers who take us through the town out of the toxic gas cloud. On the other side, a tanker explodes, and we see the sequence from the prologue where Leon and Helena are on the street trying to escape the zombies in front of them. Ada was the one in the helicopter,
for the combo.
And she was shooting at them. It's pretty weird because this scene in the campaign is nothing like it is in the prologue. We don't rescue Helena at all. She's totally fine in this version.
Oh, yeah, because you don't have to play out the tutorial.
I understand they probably did this so it wouldn't be as slow, but it doesn't really make sense for the continuity. It would be nitpicky if it was continuity between games, but this is literally breaking the continuity within the same game itself.
It's fine.
They also didn't really need to make the sequence quicker. They could have just skipped it since we already saw all this. Regardless, the two characters make it to the tower, and we see the villain they were facing, Simmons. Ada is watching over our battle in a helicopter. He accuses her of using Jake's blood to make the virus stronger. He then mutates into his second form, that of a giant T-Rex. Not sure how they got the T-Rex DNA, but okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how does his body know how to transform into that? And then he, again, goes back and transforms into a freaking, like, tiger wolf thing again. And then instead transforms into a fly later.
We essentially have to do damage to Simmons in his mutated form, targeting the eyes on his body. And we can do melee damage when he transforms back to his barely put together human form. I really like the design of Simmons, almost not held together by fragments of skin.
It does look really cool.
We defeat him once more, and Ada flies off. Helena and Leon are taking an elevator to the top of the building, discussing his feelings for Ada, but they are destroyed by the still alive Simmons. We have to climb the elevator rope while Simmons chases us up. Ada is hurt in the battle, and Leon holds her while she recovers, even covering her body and taking some bone bullets for her. Not a sexual innuendo, by the way. This battle ends when Simmons gets Leon
take some
hanging
bone
off
bullets,
the edge
you know,
of the building, and
bone
Ada
bullets with the boys.
To stab him in the side with a pipe. Ada.
That is a crossbow bolt. That is a crossbow bolt.
Left Leon a gift on the roof and heads off, ambiguous as ever.
What are you? Why are you helping us?
Wish I could stay longer. Gotta run. I've left you a little parting gift on the roof. See you down
This is the end of
there.
Ada's campaign, but he's still alive. Yeah, Leon and Helena still have a final boss fight.
We head up to the roof with Helena, but Simmons is, once again, still alive. They do
Once
this
again.
final boss fight fake out way too many times in this game. It's not the first time they've done this in the series, making a final boss have multiple forms, but it happens with multiple bosses across separate campaigns, which leads to a lot of fatigue in the bosses and their associated characters over time.
Yeah, because there's Simmons on the train, which is we'll say wolf form. Simmons on the train, wolf form. Simmons T-Rex. Simmons wolf form again while protecting Ada. Simmons first fly form. Simmons second fly form. Which is like, bro, what?
Also, when it happened in Resident Evil 2, it felt like it was basically a boss chasing us across the entire game.
Yeah, and this is what I said. Because it's instead of it just happening bam, 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 it's you see him once. 3 hours later, you see him again and he's changed. 3 hours later, you see him again and he's changed.
The same with Resident Evil 3. Here,
Yeah,
it really
with
just
Nemesis.
feels like similar boss fights all crammed into one at the end of the game.
Exactly.
We fight Simmons for one final time in a big giant bug form on the roof. He's trying to grab zombies to consume more organic material and regenerate himself. The only way we can stop this is by stabbing zombies with lightning rods so that the storm targets him and does damage. He is finally actually killed once Leon and Helena take a helicopter out of the place and Simmons falls on a spike, his blood forming the umbrella logo in the square.
It is. It's kind of cool. Like, it's a cool shot, but this is so much blood. Like, this is so much blood. It's so much blood. That is gallons of blood. Insane.
Helena gets her revenge for her sister, and her incredibly thin story loop is closed. Leon and Helena head to the chopper where Ada left them evidence of Simmons' crimes. Hunnigan calls in to tell them that they found a way to defeat the virus, and Leon gets out of there, hoping that Ada was able to escape. The post-credits scene shows Helena and Leon visiting Deborah's grave. She's prepared to serve time for her crimes.
Don't question the
But
amount of
Leon
blood. No, he
reveals
turned
that
back into a
committee
human.
reviewed her case, and she's fine. She's allowed to be an agent again, or whatever. The crazy thing about this is that if you read the files in the menu, Helena has already been suspended twice for crimes on the job. She used excessive force in the field, killing a suspect she wasn't supposed to, and then she shot her boyfriend's abuser, so they transferred her to the Secret Service because they didn't want to fire her.
I didn't know that. Wait, I didn't know that? Huh? Did I forget drinking on the job? Wait, did she actually? Doesn't compromise her beliefs and does not want to step aside. Top of her class. Officials were concerned that she would let her morals get in the way of her work. They were right. Investigating a series of murders, Helena successfully found and apprehended the killer. Process, she used excessive force on the suspect and was suspended from the agency. She claimed that she had to shut the killer up because he was making threats in front of the victim's family. After her suspension period was over, she found herself in situations where she couldn't maintain her self-control when Deborah's boyfriend became abusive, and enraged, Helena shot and injured him. Her superiors were willing to overlook her gross misconduct, but they didn't want her to fire. They didn't want to fire her, so they transferred her to the Secret Service. What? It doesn't say. No, I'm just messing around. Oh,
so
okay.
They transferred her to the secret president of the United because they didn't want to fire her. They transferred her to protecting the president of the United States because they didn't want to fire her. Also, after all of that, she was still allowed to be an agent. I'm not saying what she did was wrong. She killed a killer and she shot her sister's abuser, but why even note that she was in hot water in the files in the first place and then also allow her to get away with causing the outbreak in the first place?
That's what I'm saying.
It's just very weird. This ends Leon's campaign, what I would probably consider to be the most sloppy and disorganized campaign in the game. It doesn't get much better from here, but it does at least get slightly better.
Slightly
Leon's
better.
story is one that is constantly bogged down by basically just nothing happening. A lot more happens in 1/3 of Resident Evil 5 than the entirety of this campaign. And Leon
That's crazy, because I also complained that at times Resident Evil 5 felt really slow.
is the longest one in the entire game.
Yeah.
Helena's story and arc is barely present. It only really gets introduced about halfway through and then is left out to dry until the last few moments of the story.
Yep.
The other stories crossing over with ours really only make
Kind of
sense
accurate, letting
once we
incompetent
play
people in
those
important positions.
campaigns,
Yeah.
which creates a problem of
I get
even
you.
introducing them in the first place. You could have easily cut 2 hours from this campaign and improved it significantly. Just to create some sort of clarity
Schlopper.
between all of the campaigns, I'll be rating each one based on the Resident Evil 6 rank that I would give it.
Oh.
Based on that scale, Leon's campaign gets a C rank.
Ooh.
Chris's campaign opens in a bar somewhere in
I wonder if he'll like Chris's campaign more, because at least by the end of Chris's campaign, we got what seemed like an arc, kind of. It's not a good arc, but we did at least get an arc, and Piers is a character.
Eastern Europe. Chris is smoking cigarettes and drinking his fill, except Chris has become a straight up asshole all of a sudden.
Fill her up.
You've had enough.
Listen, sweetheart. You're here to pour drinks and look pretty.
Damn.
So how about you shut your mouth?
Why don't you get the hell out of my
A
body?
nearby young soldier tries to strike up a conversation, but he wants none of it. Chris gets into a scuffle, and the kid saves him from himself. We learn pretty quickly that this kid is named Piers Nivens.
Okay, he did get the name
tells
right.
Chris that there's
There we
a
go.
bioterrorism attack in China, and he's
steak
here
physics.
to grab
That's
him
true.
so they can solve it. Chris went through some shit in Edonia some time ago, and he got post-traumatic amnesia from the situation. Now he's a drunkard in Eastern Europe and has no memory of what happened. We'll soon find out the details, but Piers is one of the surviving members of his team and can't stand to see Chris like this.
I will say, while I do like Piers for standing up to Chris in moments where Chris is like going overboard, this is definitely one of the scenes where I'm like, Piers, he has no idea who you are or anything that happened. You can't just scream at him. Like, homie, that is so wrong. Like, that's so fucked up, homie. Like, give him some time.
Chris decides to stop running away and take on this mission. We jump to China.
Also, Chris decides to stop running away and takes on this mission. While is still partially amnesiac, is probably not been training for 6 months. What the frick? They just let him back in the BSAA with no problem?
In a large metropolis currently being hit with a bioterrorism attack. We need to head to a point called
It's crazy.
8 of Clubs and rescue some UN workers being held there. One thing that's different between each campaign is the tone and the style.
Immediately showing him photos
Leon's
of his PTSD
campaign
trigger.
falls
Yeah.
somewhere in between a traditional zombie outbreak story and a standard action movie. Chris's story,
what you wanna
by
hear?
that same token,
I don't
is
know,
a
maybe.
standard war film.
I do like
Chris is
steak.
the
Steak's good.
broken hero, the soldier that's too hardened to fight again, but the only one that can do the job. But one of my favorite things about this game is how each character has a distinct UI design. These are separate with each campaign. Leon's is a square orientation, slightly leaned towards the screen to provide depth, light gray or white, almost like a see-through screen floating in the air. Chris is in an almost military style, colored light green and curved around the corner of the screen.
I didn't think about
to
it like
almost look
that.
like a magazine. It's something that's very small, but makes each playthrough feel distinct and unique from each other.
pretty
Not just
cool.
in play style and story tone, but in visual design as well.
And the Jake's changes.
Chris and his soldiers head through the streets and are met with immediate chaos.
Didn't sound so
We eventually
familiar.
encounter the
Oh, it's Yuri
endlessly
Lowenthal.
mutating Chiato on the streets.
Finn
the
is
new
Yuri
enemy
Lowenthal.
for Chris's campaign. I already talked about these enemies and their downsides earlier, but we make our way into the building and have to fight through hordes of them to to find the
Hordes
hostages.
of Jawbo.
We eventually reach 2 mutated Jaavo who are holding them.
It's always
while
Yuri.
crawling on the ground. We have to chase them.
It's either Yuri Lowenthal, Johnny Young Bosch, Roger Craig Smith, Max Middleman, Alejandro Saab, or I feel like those are some of the people that I see the most in things. But I mean, I love all of them. They're all so incredibly talented. Robbie Damon, Jonah.
Through the building and kill them, rescuing.
Yeah, Matt Mercer. He's literally in this game
process.
as Leon.
For some reason, Resident Evil 6 crashed a lot for me, and this section of the game was where that began. I just couldn't complete this section without the game crashing.
Oh, interesting.
I eventually figured out a way around it, but it happened in other chapters after this too, and you usually have to start from a pretty far back checkpoint when you crash like this.
Oh, I don't think Shia and I ran into that. I think the only thing that we really had was the occasional disconnect, and that one weird glitch thing. Weird.
The building.
Don't forget Steve Blum. I feel like I don't hear him as much anymore in like background character roles. I feel like I hear him like he's Wolverine. You know, he's Spike Spiegel. He's Mugen. You know, he's Sanjuro and Dot Hack. Like there's a lot of roles that I pinpoint him as. You know.
And starts to fall down around us. Most of the BSAA agents that were here succumb to the C virus. Seeing this leads Chris to remember what happened in Adonia.
There's a lot of random soldier grunts too. Yeah, true.
Campaign becomes a flashback to those events 6
that
months
one door that was a problem in Jake's campaign. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
2012. During a civil war in the country, Chris and his team are mourning a lost soldier. He gives them a rousing speech that shows he knows how to lead this group. This chapter is where the campaign starts to get real war/battleground drama, and pretty quickly, this campaign straight up becomes a war movie. It looks absolutely nothing like any Resident Evil game we've played so far.
Yeah.
The BSAA splits up into different
credential
teams
Chris
and
needed
are
is,
immediately stopped
I
in their
killed
Humvee
Albert
caravan.
Wesker.
This leads to
I
a
killed
huge
your
battle
father.
on the streets. Pretty quickly, though, we contend with a new boss, the Ogre Man.
Ogre
This
Man.
enemy will appear at different points throughout the game, and it sort of exemplifies the tone that this game goes for. This is the El Gigante of Resident Evil 6.
Yeah.
A massive, shambling beast with great strength and size, a weak spot sticking out of its back. But it's about as subtle as a heart attack. It's an El Gigante that's melting wax from its face, covered in spores and claws. It doesn't really fit in with its surroundings. One of the greatest strengths of the original El Gigante's design. Resident Evil 6 as a whole takes everything that the previous action games have done and removes all of the subtlety from it.
It is very disappointing in that sense that, like, you know that they wanted an El Gigante, but it's not an El Gigante. It's that.
Sort of defeat the monster here, but it just scrambles off into the city to destroy more of it. We make our way through more of the city, eventually finding a BSAA soldier named Finn on the bridge. Chris risks his life and the mission to save this soldier because no man gets left behind. They end up blowing the bridge.
Little girl jumping on its back like Mikasa. Oh, Attack on Titan style.
Meet up with Sherry and Jake, who were also in Adonia at this time. Chris knows who Sherry is because Claire told him about her after they met.
What does her badge say?
Yeah, at this time. Chris knows who Sherry.
United States of America agent. That's like all I can read. Security Task Force of United States of America. Security Task Force.
Sherry is because Claire told him about her after they met in Resident
Welcome
Evil
back,
3.
Mage.
There's some friction between Jake and Chris
Lorem
because
ipsum, yeah.
he's a wanted target. This is interrupted pretty quickly, though, because BSAA agents are trying to land, and anti-aircraft guns are preventing them from doing so.
There you go.
We have to take out these guns, but whoever the
Interpol.
fuck
No, I think it's
is literally dropping
like security,
Ogre Man
like national
into the
security.
city. This just feels so odd, and a lot of Chris's campaign just leaves you asking, what game is this? Are we sure this is Resident Evil? Because it actually feels like Gears of War or Call of Duty or something.
Exactly.
This causes a massive boss fight sort of defense scenario where we have to defend the soldiers, placing the explosives on the AA guns. Once we destroy the weapons, we can take down the final Ogre Man by jumping on his back and pulling out the plug so that the aircraft above can attack, which is honestly pretty cool, I'll admit. When Sherry and Jake are about to leave, Chris thinks he recognizes Jake, but he's clearly just seeing the Albert Wesker in him.
I'm going to be real. I don't know how you see that. He doesn't look anything like Wesker. Also, Wesker had his eyes, like, mutated beyond belief. Like, Chris hasn't seen normal Wesker's eyes in like 20 years. There's no way. You do not see any of this man in Wesker.
Piers is upset that Chris let him get away. Since he is a mercenary that's wanted, he should be taken in. The team heads into a nearby building full of people infected by the C virus that have turned into
Maybe Jake's wearing
cocoons.
Sunglasses. True.
We're introduced to a new enemy here, one that hatches from the cocoons, covered in a hard shell that must be destroyed before we can do damage to them.
Damn.
After defeating them, Chris
Flashy.
finds Ada Wong here. She says she was held hostage after working here and tells them about the C virus. She says that the organization supporting the guerrilla soldiers are called Neo Umbrella.
Yeah, he corrected Perry.
Chris puts Finn in charge of
Yeah, he said it at the
keeping them
beginning,
safe,
right,
and the group
Thorin?
heads deeper into the building. They are quickly attacked and rerouted to a different area. The entire team, except for Chris and Piers, are trapped in a room and injected with the C virus, transforming them into...
That bomb is terrifying. Can I also just say that? That is such a terrifying looking bomb. Like, what? What the fuck do you mean? What is this? That's insane.
To mutated beasts. Chris is unable to pull himself away from his comrades, and Piers is the only reason that he lives through it. This was all a flashback, though, and Chris comes into the present day, realizing his hatred for Ada Wong, and begins his quest for revenge. Now, I'm not going to say that Chris's story is entirely terrible.
Bomb would be terrifying.
Leon's
Yeah.
is definitely worse. Chris has the advantage of things actually happening to move the plot forward, and a side character in Piers that is actually something. He has motivation. He looks up to Chris. He respects his commander and can't stand to see him drunken and moping in a bar somewhere. Chris has motivation in revenge on Ada Wong and wants to see his comrades' lives avenged. The only problem with this is that it feels like it erases, or at least blatantly repeats, the themes that Resident Evil 5 already had.
Yeah.
In Resident Evil 5, Chris was tortured by the supposed death of his partner, Jill.
Yeah.
Part of the game was about him learning to save her, to overcome that, and to move on.
This was a
from
depression
that
and
grief,
Piers searches for him for
to
6
stop
months. Meanwhile, Sherry and
blaming
Jake are
himself
kidnapped
for
the entire
that
time.
and learn
Yeah.
that the future is bright.
That's such
this
a
kind of defeats the purpose of that game.
That is such a crazy thing. Because, like, we've made jokes about, like, oh, like, what was everyone doing during this downtime? And it's the gap between that mission in Adonia to then Piers finding Chris in this bar is 6 months. So Chris had amnesia for 6 months and was drinking himself to death in a bar, essentially. Piers, trying to give him space, came back to get him, saying, like, hey, we need you, you know? Meanwhile, that entire time, freaking what's it called? Jake, Sherry, kidnapped under experiment in China. Also, is Leon's the only one without a time skip? Because Tall Oaks happens and then they immediately go to China. Oh, I guess so. Interesting. Leon's happens near present day. Yeah, I guess so.
When we check back in and Chris is already going through the same exact thing, I'm not saying it's unreasonable to grieve over lost comrades, but it just feels a bit unnecessary when this theme was delivered in the last entry. Since Ada has been sighted in the city, our new goal is to track her down. We start to take out hordes of Chiato, and eventually we find Sherry and Jake gunned down by a group of the mutants. We have to protect them from above, protecting ourselves,
by the mutants,
and also the 2 soldiers down below. We face a chopper shortly after, and Piers wants to go after the 2, but Chris is clearly
he's left-handed.
on Ada and a BOW that's in a building close by. One of our soldiers gets pulled away by a giant snake, a boss that will fight soon.
The snake is insane. This part was actually so creepy with the snake. I'm not going to lie.
Chris heads off to save him and gets lectured by Piers for being
right, no
so
time skip.
reckless.
Yeah.
Chris puts him in his place pretty quickly, calling on Rank to shut him up.
What the hell were you thinking, pulling a kamikaze stunt like that?
These are my men.
Oh.
You follow my lead or I'll find someone who will.
Do you even hear yourself?
Oh.
Fall in line, soldier.
Fall in line,
Like I said,
soldier.
Chris is kind of a dickhead in this game. We then have to fight this boss, a camouflaged snake that honestly kind of feels like a more complex version of Yawn from Resident Evil 1.
I agree.
We have to watch out
camouflage
for
is
waves
cool.
and disturbances in our vision to shoot the snake before it lunges. We eventually defeat it by luring it
Leon's
into a
campaign can be
generator.
cut almost entirely, and you don't lose much from the plot in retrospect. I think you're right. Wait, I think you're right. They kill Simmons, but like... that's like it. Huh.
Room and unplugging nearby power sources to damage it. Shortly after this, we cross
There's a jerk in
paths with
RE8
Ada,
too.
who
He's just old and grizzled. Eight, I'm a little bit more like, I understand why he didn't want Ethan involved, and maybe explaining it to him was absolutely risky. Because like, I'm a little bit of a Chris apologist for Resident Evil 8. Would it have been cooler if they worked together from the beginning? Absolutely. But I will say, listen, if you know the big bad that you're fighting, like the big monster bullshit scientist, whatever, has power over this magical fungus that can mutate people, and now you know that your contact is made of this, and you don't want to trust him with this shit, I wouldn't trust him with that shit either. In RE8, is he a traitor to the BSAA? We don't know. We have zero context or explanation as to what is going on with the BSAA, nor Blue Umbrella, nor Chris's team. We have none of that information. And unfortunately, the DLC that we got for Resident Evil 8 was about Rose. And I like that DLC. I do. I actually very much enjoyed it. I think the story beats were really good. I liked Ethan and his relationship with Rose. Thought that was great. But Resident Evil 8's done. You know? And Resident Evil 8's done, and they opened so many worms, so many cans of worms. That's just like, what's going on with the BSAA? Why are they using zombies for soldiers? Why did Chris leave the BSAA? What is going on with Blue Umbrella? Who is this team that you have? You know, where's Jill? Where's Leon? Where's Claire? Where's Barry? Where's Rebecca? These people that were in other environments, in other games, in other situations that we've seen in the past that are now just not doing anything. Yeah.
Immediately injects a soldier in front of them. Piers tries to put him out of his misery, but Chris stops him. It hatches into a new
Where's
enemy,
Sheva?
a swarm of insects that will chase us unless we find the main body. Chris mourns the dead soldier, increasing his need for revenge against her even further.
Where's Jake?
Piers tries to get him back in a normal place and tells him the truth. It doesn't work, though. It only fuels his rage even more.
How many of our men are dead because of that bitch?
I'm right there with you, Captain. But your personal vendetta isn't gonna get us anywhere. If you hadn't been blinded by vengeance, we could have prevented some of those deaths.
Shut up.
Shut up.
Do you even care about our mission anymore?
Shut up!
I feel sorry for all the men that died believing in you.
Oh, that's such a cold line, dude.
What happened to the legendary Chris Redfield, huh? What happened to you?
Bro.
It's a good thing Finn's not around to see you this way.
Dude, that's why I love
Piers is only
Piers.
staying around at this point to make sure that Chris doesn't do something bad. After this, we get chased
I
by
love that.
helicopters.
I'm not
through a
gonna lie.
harbor full of boats. We're hot on Ada's trail, though, and we end up in
Where's
the
Claire? She's
warehouse
hiding from
with the
Chris
saw
because
trap again.
he wants to bang
We already
Leon.
saw
That's
this
crazy.
trap from Leon and Helena's perspective. Chris and Piers were in the room shooting robots onto the other side.
Ironically, though, I think Claire is doing stuff with TerraSave at this point because Revelations 2 takes place in 2015. So, like, Claire is a major part of TerraSave at this point, you know? Pierce is the only new character in this that's worth a damn. I really like Pierce. We have 4 campaigns: the Raccoon Crew, the Call of Duty Crew, the Kidnapped Crew, and the Spy Crew. That's crazy.
I actually like this part of the crossover between campaigns. It was a cool little realization when I came to this part, and you can even see the other characters through the glass.
I was going to say, what do you mean realization? You can see them through the glass. You should know in the moment.
On the other side, we see the same cutscene we saw in Leon's campaign, but from Chris's perspective this time. Now we know why Chris was
President
going
Chris
after
didn't punch
Ada this whole
Piers.
time.
He needed him.
We have to chase Ada down a highway in a pretty lame vehicle section.
You can even hear them, yeah.
Most of the driving in this game is terrible, so when we actually have to do it, it really sucks. These sections are also needlessly long.
Oh,
They're far
yeah.
worse in Jake's campaign, but still annoying nonetheless.
Shia and I were complaining about this the entire time. This section is so freaking long. Rev 2 takes place in 2011. Oh, then yeah, freaking Claire is probably still recovering from the trauma that she had in 2011. I thought Rev 2 took place after RE6. Oh, shit. Damn.
We chase Ada into a warehouse.
We technically played it out of order then.
We have to use a missile to get a way forward. We make our way through a massive battleship and eventually see Ada sending her message to Simmons, which we saw him receive in Leon's playthrough.
Rev 1 takes place between
She
4 and
accuses
5.
Simmons-
That's why I played Rev 1 before we played 5. You know? But I thought Rev 2 took place after 6. Whoopsies. Rev 3 is nowhere to be found. That's because Rev 1 and Rev 2 did not do great in terms of sales. Even though Rev 1 is one of the best-selling 3DS games of all time, Rev 2 tried to do the episodic thing and it did not work. People liked it, and people are usually critically positive on Rev 2, but sales-wise, it did not sell well.
And his family of shaping the world, but tomorrow that changes. We reach the helipad and confront Ada officially. She's being unusually cruel to Chris, making fun of his dead men. He tells her this isn't about vengeance, but justice.
Religions are exactly
Ada has a plan, though, to
aren't
recreate
exactly
Raccoon
really,
City
yeah.
over the entire world. A helicopter then shows up.
Oh,
and
you found the
shoots Ada in the
Revelitons?
heart.
Nice.
She falls off the helicopter pad, but her
Yeah, the
plans are
helipad.
already in motion.
True.
They find one strain of what seems to be the C virus. Chris tries to warn the BSAA of what's about to happen. He and Piers get on a plane to stop the missiles spreading the virus from being launched onto the mainland.
Shame, I was hoping Rev 3 would be about Ada, considering how Ada's campaign ended here in 6. Everybody's campaign ended here in 6. The only character in all of Resident Evil that has anything that happens outside of Resident Evil 6 is Chris. And even then, we don't even really know what happened to him because he's not a playable character, except in his DLC in 7. In that moment in 8. We don't really know what happened between Resident Evil 6 and 7 for him, nor between 7 and 8. Literally, like, Leon's missing, Sherry's missing, Jake's missing, Helena's missing. Literally every single Resident Evil character except for Jake. This is their last, or except for Chris. This is their last game. It's all Ethan. True.
We have to escape the ship by completing a section very similar to the market section in Leon's campaign, where we have to gather 3 keys. We get an ace combat section, controlling a plane and attacking turrets on the battleship.
Ethan Winters.
This doesn't work, though. The missile still launches, and we see the conversation on the other side that we saw in Leon's playthrough. The missile is then launched, and the city turns into an infected zone. Chris and Piers are sent to rescue Sherry and Jake at the underwater base.
Get the hell
Piers
out of
points
there!
out the irony in the fact that Wesker's son is the only one who can save the world.
There's so much time that's just a big question mark in between 6 and 7. I wonder if they'll ever explain that game with a game. I think explain that time with a game. I think that would be the perfect slide in for Revelations 3. Quite literally. But the problem is that it would have to be about Chris. It would have to be about Chris. Because we have to know what happened to the BSAA. We have to know why he left. We have to know why Blue Umbrella was made. It should just go back to being about Jill and Chris. Even maybe if Claire wanted to join too. You know? I think that could be cool.
And he's about
So
to
quote
be
that song.
rescued by the
Get the
man who
hell
killed
out
his
of
father.
there!
Chris tells Piers that he's ready to turn in his weapons after this. He can't be at war forever. He wants Piers to succeed him.
I mean,
After finding some records of
maybe
Sherry
not
and
the
Jake,
worst
an alarm
idea.
goes off and we have to get to the research
maybe
bay.
not the worst
After defending an
idea.
airlock and waiting for it to open,
Hi,
we found
Valen.
Sherry and Jake. Chris tells
looked
Jake
awkward in that
after
plane. He
his
really did.
first
He looked
snarky
small.
remark that he can see
Like, tight.
Wesker in him and that he was the one that killed him. Jake pulls a gun and pulls the trigger after getting some answers, but doesn't shoot Chris. The room they're in starts crumbling.
I'm gonna be so real. This
The
scene,
trigger after getting some answers, but doesn't shoot Chris.
this scene was so unnecessary. This scene was so unnecessary. It's cool to have this interaction and a standoff. It is a cool scene, but it's an unnecessary scene because Chris did not need to talk to Jake about this now. Is Chris still working for Blue Umbrella in 8, or is he with a new org? I think he's in a different org. I think Blue Umbrella is only Resident Evil 7. And then I think in 8, it's his own, like, Black Ops hit squad that fights BOWs. And that's it. Like, they're mercenaries. I'm pretty sure. Somebody correct me on that if I'm wrong. My theory at the time is that they could have made Revelations the more action-focused game, and the mainline been more focused on survival horror since the fans of both. Well, the idea was the opposite, is that Revelations was supposed to be the horror focus, and the mainline was going to continue with action. It's actually the opposite of what you're saying, James. That's why Revelations 1 and 2 are both much more horror focused. But then, Resident Evil 7 went back to horror focus, so they kind of felt that they didn't have need for Revelations anymore. Get my photo. Oh, get my phone since I have ads. No worries. We'll take a pause. Take a quick break. I'm drawing. Ooh, hope we get some good stuff. So many special words. So insanely dumb. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. I like how in this section you don't have to get on the platform with your partner. You can be Chris and ride the platform as Sherry or Jake, and there's unique dialogue for each scenario. Wait, is there really? Oh, I didn't know that. Wait, that's so cool. Huh? Damn. How is Chris not deaf from that shot? I think I actually said that he has permanent hearing damage because of that now. Capcom didn't know what they were doing in the 2010s. I think that's completely a fair statement. The jump from 4 to 5 was like kind of understood where they were going with that. But the jump from 5 to 6 and Revelations 2 and Operation Raccoon City, and then finally coming back together with Resident Evil 7, but then faltering with things like Reverse and Umbrella Corps and whatever the other BS games that they made were. Chris created his own team. That's what I thought. Yeah, Chris has had a hell of a life, true. Let you know when I'm out. No worries. We'll wait. Wait on the ads. Thank you guys for telling me. Remember, we have a free ads emote over on the Twitch side. So if you guys ever get stuck in ads, feel free to use the ads emote. It should be Roichi ads. Blue Umbrella is connected to the BSAA. Or are they really? Oh. Reverse was during the remake, so it was a mixed bag. Oh, yeah, because it was back as with Resident Evil 3, but that was 2019. I believe Reverse came out, right? Reverse. No, it's 2022. Holy shit. Never mind. Fuck me. Time is not real. I forgot that 2019 is RE2 remake. What's the one that was packaged? Wait, what's the one that was packaged with Resident Evil 3 remake? What's the one I'm thinking of? What is the one I'm thinking of? Why can I never remember this one? The one that was like a 4v1 isometric game. Resistance. That's what it was. Thank you. Yeah, that was the other one I was thinking of. I'm honestly still a little sad. Still a little surprised Capcom didn't just throw up their hands and decide to go full-on reboot with RE7, considering how rocky the franchise was at that point. That was the intention with RE7. It wasn't necessarily supposed to be a reboot, but it was supposed to be a return to form of survival horror. And they did it. If you look at RE7, and I will talk about this ad nauseum when we get to 7, because I love RE7. RE7's a banger for the first 75% of the game. And then if you look at RE7, and you look at how they marketed RE7, how the demo for RE7 was, because let me tell you, the marketing campaign for Resident Evil 7 went crazy. It went crazy. the marketing campaign for RE7. I remember so many trailers, so many people talking about the demo, so many people talking about ghosts and what was going to happen, demons, possessions, things like that, and everyone playing the demo over and over and over again, trying to find new hidden details. They went insane with that stuff. It was crazy. Resident Evil was never more back. And if you play that and then play Resident Evil 7, you can see that they were absolutely trying really hard to capture the feeling of current horror with that. That was a big thing that they did with that demo. And then a feeling of it with RE7 as well, where there are enemies that you can stun for a certain amount of time, but you can't kill. Like when Jack is following you in the mansion. You know, people always point, they're like, oh, it's like a Nemesis style thing, or oh, it's a Mr. X style thing. Actually, it's like all the other horror games that had come out around that time. Because remember, we talked about it. Alien Isolation was big. Outlast was big. Other games of similar archetype were big at that time, you know? Back from ads, thank you. Thank you.
The room they're in starts crumbling, and we have to escape on these small elevators that wind up the chamber. There's a massive cocoon here that's about to hatch. It, of course, does hatch and reveals the final boss of this campaign.
Amazing PT being such a big thing led to influencing 7 later down the line to make 7 itself influencing the Silent Hill 2 remake. Yeah. I mean, that's what happens, you know? Everybody comes up with these ideas. I mean, RE4 is the reason Dead Space is the way that it is, and then Dead Space went ahead and freaking inspired so many other styled horror games with that, you know? Yeah, PT was so much more important to horror than I think people realize.
The house. This is a giant enemy that can expel toxic gas and divide its body. Essentially, if it gets out, it will infect the entire world in a matter of days. We have to run from
thing
it
is so
first,
creepy
dodging
looking.
Its attacks and climbing high platforms.
Genuinely.
We then fight the beast in a big watery cavern, but get pushed into another chamber after the fight. It chases us once again, and Pierre's right arm is absolutely demolished.
Oh, yeah.
He ends up injecting himself with the sample they found to give him enough strength to fight this thing off.
That thing is crazy. Dude, he throws that shit. Like, it is like a jagged piece of metal. He's like just stuck on this little bit, and then he immediately is like impaled. That's crazy. Fits horror is a genre that loves itself more than any other. Yeah, I feel that. I have a YouTube link with the different platform conversations. I don't know what platform. Oh, with the RE6 ones. You can probably throw it in Discord. I'll check it out later. Or I'll just go back if I ever care to listen to it. But I'm kind of done with Resident Evil 6. I'm not gonna lie.
This thing off.
You need to get that robot arm.
Himself in the process. This gives him a new appendage with the ability to shoot lightning. We then have a battle where we have to target the house's weak spot by attacking it while it's in cocoon form. If we don't, it will essentially just regenerate in the shell.
Yep.
After the fight, Piers is clearly infected. He tells Chris that he did this for the future. He wanted to be like Chris, to sacrifice himself for the world. Chris brings Piers with him to the escape pod, but it's clear he won't make it. Piers shoves Chris into the pod because he knows that Chris won't be able to face the truth, that he's going to lose another soldier. It's a pretty emotional scene.
It
very
is.
Reminiscent of Armageddon, funnily enough.
God damn it! Listen to me! We can still both get out of here! There's still time!
Yeah, I felt bad for Piers, man.
No, Piers, don't! You can still make it out! God damn it, Piers!
Yeah, dude, this scene
Chris
did hurt.
barely makes it out alive,
You know?
stranded in the ocean with Piers' BSAA patch. We then see a scene of him sitting in that same bar, only this time he's eating a steak, just like Piers was during the introduction.
And he doesn't really
more
get to eat it
booze for
much.
this soldier. A young recruit shows up to give Chris new orders, and he gladly accepts. Piers couldn't be the future of the BSAA, so Chris fights on for him. Chris's campaign actually isn't terrible, and it's
I will say, I'm sad we never get to see what these new orders are after, because again, Resident Evil 6 to 7, there's Blue Umbrella, and then 7 to 8, there's this new squad, and he left the BSAA. What the fuck happened to this? He forgot about Piers. He forgot about Piers.
Probably the peak of the stories in Resident Evil.
Oh,
6.
absolutely, Coco.
There is a character arc here, an interesting plot. It still drags on a bit longer than it needs to. The only one that has a good length is Jake's, but we'll get there next.
Yeah, Jake's is,
Piers is an interesting character that has
good.
strong motivations and a good connection to our main character, Chris. The worst part about it is that it's mostly a repeat of the themes in Resident Evil 5 and kind of feels unnecessary outside of isolation.
I'm not going to lie, though. They did it better in Resident Evil 6 than they did it in Resident Evil 5. I wish Sheva reacted like this. I wish Sheva beat Chris's ass. You know what I mean?
And another huge problem is that it doesn't feel like a Resident Evil game at all. It's literally a gritty war drama, not really a zombie outbreak or virus story.
Agreed.
Overall, this one wasn't that offensive, and at least it had an interesting story that keeps you around, but it still fails in a lot of the same ways that Leon's campaign did outside of story.
I agree with that.
I give Chris's campaign a B rank. Okay. Jake's campaign begins with our new character in an undisclosed location in Edonia. Jake, as we already know, is the son of Albert Wesker. He doesn't know who his father is, though. He obviously wasn't present when he was a child. Jake ended up training with mercenaries when he was young and found a father in his mentor, but this man ended up being a double agent and betraying them. His mother was also sick when he was young, and he learned to only trust money. Now he's a mercenary for the guerrilla fighters in the Edonia conflict, and his only boss is cold, hard cash.
I mean, listen.
He's learned to be
money. Do you know what I'm saying? Money. So Wesker a deadbeat father? I don't even think Wesker knew Jake existed. Because he would have been like... Jake would have been like, what, like 7? No, sorry. Wait, a little bit older than that. 13, 14? When Wesker died? So...
You got me. And trust no one. So this campaign really starts back 6 months ago when Chris was fighting with the BSAA before he lost his soldiers. Sherry Birkin was sent to find Jake because he had antibodies against the C virus.
How did they know this? They kept tabs on him, right? And just didn't disclose it? That was the big thing, right? They'd been keeping tabs on him since he was born.
Ada Wong is already hot on their trail when Sherry arrives, though, and Jake doesn't really care about saving the world. He's definitely a bit of an asshole as well, though, fitting the bad boy archetype.
Yeah.
But Jake actually has something special about his gameplay. Instead of being equipped with a melee weapon like the other characters, Jake can use his fists as the attack tool that requires no ammunition. And it's actually pretty fun to use because it's basically an extension of the base melee system.
It is very fun.
A striking palm attack and follow it up with even more attacks to turn it into a combo. It's incredibly useful when we're out of ammo, and it also makes Jake's playthrough feel way more unique than the others.
Oh my god, my eyes,
His
dude.
is completely
My eyes.
set apart because it feels like he has something that no one else can do. It is a little finicky, just like Resident Evil 6 movement system in general, but it doesn't require some mastery to be able to even use. You basically just spam and hold buttons and beat dudes up.
That's
The
it.
first mission with Jake and Sherry see them trying to escape Edonia. Sherry wants to bring Jake in so they can develop a vaccine for the C virus, but he wants $50 million. That's Sherry's problem to figure out, though. But on their way out, they get
he doesn't want $50 million until they get on the helicopter.
Attacked by the main villain of this campaign, Ustanak. Ustanak is basically the nemesis.
I hate this
game.
thing.
And in a lot of ways, this really feels like a retread of Resident Evil 3. Ustanak is an enemy that will constantly chase us throughout the story, but
RE
just
to
a
SF.
bit less freeform and a lot more linear. He has a pretty cool
money.
backstory that's only in the files.
They knew he had the antibodies because Foe Ada gave him and his team a combat enhancer. He was actually the C virus. Jake was the only survivor, so boom, antibodies. Yes, I got that. That's what happens in the beginning of his campaign. But why the hell was Sherry there? That's where it's like, why is Sherry just there waiting for him to take the thing? Is she just watching all these random mercenaries take the C virus and hoping one of them has antibodies?
Originally a very frail man that wanted the C virus so he could become more powerful. One of the memos even says, I will no longer retain my humanity, but it is a paltry sacrifice in the light of the wonderful gains.
Oh.
And that's how I feel every time I pick up a weight.
It's true.
He took the C virus and became this monster we see in front of us.
True.
But he apparently still retains a lot of this human faculty, meaning he is completely aware. Most of our encounters with him are
just as
chase
he's mean around,
sequences
it's
where he
also
hunts
true.
us down, crushing through rubble like it's nothing. We do fight him here pretty quickly, though.
Said you would
and find out he
RE3R
is
and
near
Nemesis. It was
indestructible.
better showcase of
He
OG
can't
Nemesis
even
than
be
this.
down
Yeah,
no
I
matter
agree.
How many magnum bullets we pump into him. Pretty early into the campaign, though, we also encounter Chris, seeing the other side of this cutscene and scenario from
HQ
Jake's
to Alpha.
perspective. We also have to do this scenario again, which is really
Sent to track him down.
cumbersome.
We don't know why.
There's a
There you
lot
go.
of repeat stuff.
Said
in
that by
Jake's
Simmons, I think
scenario,
so.
mainly because we've already played 2 of these campaigns so far, and Chris and his greatly overlap. Ada's will probably be the worst in that regard because she overlaps with just about everyone.
Yep,
This
which is
whole
why we
sequence
didn't play
is
it.
basically just like it was in Chris's. Just take out the AA guns and fight the Ogre Man. After we split from the BSAA team and leave Chris to
Damn,
develop
that's
his
cool.
post-traumatic amnesia, Jake and Sherry take a helicopter.
Sherry got
out
really
of
lost on our way to
space.
vacation cruise.
Sherry is
Damn.
trying to get the government to pay for Jake's
Poor
$50
Sherry.
million bill, but they are attacked by the Ustanak. We have to fend him off in one vehicle and jump to another before fighting him off with a mounted
Maybe
gun
we
as he
wanted to
hangs
keep
from
tabs on
copters.
him.
The plane
Only way to stop
starts
the C
go
virus,
down,
therefore
but
send Sherry after
luckily
Jake.
they
I think
parachute
that's probably what it is because Simmons is definitely that kind of person to like have that knowledge, to want to dot his I's, cross his T's kind of thing. It also could have been Ada was, or sorry, Clara, whoever the fake Ada is. I always forget her name. Was probably trying to keep an eye on him while she was still lying to Simmons about being with him. It says that Ustanak is visually impaired and he needs those stupid little bugs to see. Why would Neo Umbrella okay a blind Nemesis weapon? Ustanak can see just fine. I think he's a little bit more blind, but it's like when people are making noise, it's easier to see them.
into the snow.
Maybe not completely
Sherry is
blind.
impaled and Jake pulls the steel out of her back and she regenerates. Sherry has changed quite a bit since we saw her last. She actually has regenerative powers since she was injected with the G virus. She was tested on and prodded by the government for years. Claire was there to provide moral support, but she was eventually taken legally by Derek Simmons. He became her guardian and the government was keeping her to test on her, but also to protect her from Albert Wesker.
Wait, I didn't know that Derek Simmons like adopted her. Whoa. That's kind of crazy. Yeah. Okay. Well then.
Once Wesker died, she was offered a job as a high-ranking agent with the U.S. government. But since she has regenerative powers, this steel in her back is nothing. Sherry grabs her phone from the wreckage, but the data on it is
Free the
gone.
emblem files.
Everything on
When I get the
Jake and
chance.
his blood and his analysis has been wiped.
As long as it's an
Jake
unfinished
is upset
prototype.
as well because
could be
he
it too.
won't get his 50
Good call,
million.
Blue Ghost.
Our goal is to get out of this place by finding 3 keys, just like in every single other campaign that we've played so far. But this section is one of the worst ones in the entire game. We
Agreed.
have to wander through this snowy mountain with barely any visibility at all.
It sucks.
The whole map is huge and is connected in the most incomprehensible way. You can barely navigate around this place and try to find these keys because you can't see. There's a part with an ice lake and we have to drive across it with a snowmobile.
Yeah, it
it's
sucks.
just really bad.
It's
we eventually
bad.
have to backtrack all the way through just to get to the place that we need to put the keys.
It's bad.
The two eventually get to a cabin, a place to camp out for a bit. Sherry eventually decides to get
Just
help.
one of
but the
multiple
storm is
handlers
too
during her growing
strong.
up. Got
The
it.
tension between the two is palpable, though. Sherry reveals some of her past about how she was infected originally and what happened to her dad in Resident Evil 2.
Kinda.
She talks about Leon and Claire as well, and how they are the people she's the closest to. They are eventually attacked, and in classic rom-com fashion, Jake has to tackle her to the ground. We defeat these guys and have to ride a snowmobile down the hill. This is also a terrible section
Classic
because it's
rom-com
incredibly difficult
fashion.
to control the vehicles.
Yes.
The slightest movement to the right or left sends us careening off the side. This sequence is also just visually fucked up. because
yeah.
You can barely tell what's going on. Where are we?
It
Is
is-
the mountain collapsing? Are we inside of an iceberg?
They are
Are we
literally.
underground? Who knows? When we get to the bottom, we find
Bro,
Ustanak
me.
again.
Literally.
We can't fight him. We have to sneak around. We have to.
Also,
get to-
I'm gonna go back again just so you guys can
because
see
he
it.
sends us careening off the
Look at
side.
this. That is what kept happening to me. I would be going off the jump, and the jump's all the way back here. It looks clear. All right, it's time to make the jump. Oh, there's suddenly a giant ice boulder in my way. Oh no, I hit the ice boulder midair. This happened to me, I think, twice. Come on, game.
Is the mountain collapsing? Are we bottom? We find Ustanak again,
anyway,
but we can't fight him. We have to sneak around. We have to distract him
this
with
sucked.
explosives so that Sherry can get a key out of this place. He also has these small insects called.
Also, who the hell is this random dude?
Out of this place.
This dude just shows up out of nowhere. You know? You did not enjoy Resident Evil 6, huh? I like pieces of it, and I complain because I'm very compassionate. I'm very passionate about Resident Evil as a franchise. It's one of my favorite franchises of all time. So when the franchise doesn't do well, I'm vocal about it because I want people to be aware of what makes what I think makes a good Resident Evil game, or especially to be vocal in the sense so that companies like Capcom can learn for the future. Obviously, my opinion doesn't have that much weight in that regard, but I don't know. I like talking about it. It's nerdy stuff. It's fun. It's one of my favorite franchises. So whether a game's good or bad, if it's something that I enjoy, I'm probably going to talk about it. Just like Kamen Rider and Super Sentai and Power Rangers.
He also has these small insects called Oko that are released from the Ustanok's organs.
Oh.
They can sense when we're nearby and alert him. We can stealth take them out.
They're from his organs?
Carve a path out of the facility.
Huh?
We eventually corner him with a digging machine that requires far too many QTEs to complete.
Yeah.
It impales him and seems like he's entirely dead, but of course, we know he comes back later.
Yeah, this is so stupid that he doesn't die here.
When we get
because like the drill is literally in his chest through the wall. There are multiple times when they lampshade stupid writing by saying how much and such is done is still unknown. Oh,
outside, we find the rendezvous for Sherry.
I see.
Ustanak
That
is
does
still not
suck.
dead and murks both of our heroes. Ada Wong shows.
I thought the massive consensus that RE6 was a mess. It is absolutely. Do I hate it? No, but it is definitely one of my least favorite Resident Evils. Do I still enjoy it playing with Shia? 100%.
Up and tells Jake.
Do I want to play it again? No.
She ends up taking him into custody shortly after. Jake and Sherry are captured for 6 months before our story picks up again. One day, Jake is retrieved from his cell, and for some reason, it took him 6 months to decide he didn't want to be locked up in captivity anymore.
Yep, there you go,
he
guys.
breaks out. This is where we have to use Jake's hand-to-hand combat because we have no weapons yet. We have to escape this facility with Sherry, taking out a ton of Chiato guards and eventually protecting her with turrets on the walls. When we reconnect with our partner, the two get dressed and retrieve their weapons. Sherry asks Jake about Wesker, his father, but she pretends she didn't know anything about him.
I guess he had an antibody that could fight off any virus. Apparently, he abused his gift. Took it for granted.
That's kind of true. It's kind of not. It's more like he was engineered to be like that because he's one of the Wesker children and was injected with the T virus as a kind of like, whoa shit, just in case something happens, like at least you have this, you know?
And then ended up turning himself into some kind of monster.
Yeah. Bye, Rebels.
Dad was just a deadbeat who skipped out on us. No, he was.
While the guards wear masks, it's probably like a protocol thing to be like, oh, we're, Chiato, or we're part of this, this team, we're part of this group. But also like, don't show the prisoners compassion. Don't show them what you're thinking. Don't give them an inkling of a moment of anything. Don't form attachments with them.
Actually, a freaking nut job who almost destroyed the world.
Your father's actions have nothing to do with you.
Yeah, but his blood does.
Jake's journey is really about learning that he's more than his lineage, that he can make his own path and take responsibility for his life.
I don't like this because after this revelation, they're trying to make it seem like Jake has done like a lot of terrible things. And like, he's been a mercenary and he's probably been like not a great person. He's probably killed some people, but like, they're making it sound like he was like a supervillain like Wesker and that he didn't have to be. And it's like, what? No? Man.
We have to get out of this facility. And
we got to get out of here.
Sherry's superiors. To get out,
Goldman
though,
at
we
his
have to collect
finest.
10 ID chips across the building. This requires
I don't
killing
like Jake,
different
but they don't give you
enemies
much
and
for it.
collecting the chips from puzzles in the
feel that.
environment. It's a pretty cumbersome section because it takes up so much time.
Oh, yeah,
But
we
once
were here
do complete
forever.
it, Sherry finds the data chip on Jake.
We were here
She calls Simmons and
forever.
reports that they're in China. Simmons is already here, so we need to meet up with them. On our way out, we are attacked by a tank and have to escape.
A tank.
We luckily get a motorcycle and can speed away from our pursuers.
Wow.
But this once again amplifies just how bad the driving in the game is.
Yeah.
The bike is incredibly hard to control, sweeping across the entire width of the street.
Would you trust
We eventually
the son of a
contend with
supervillain to not do
helicopter and
anything?
crash into the
Maybe.
city. We're then overseen by Chris and Piers.
Feels like Jake is
seeing
Pookie.
the other side of another sequence
Could be.
from Chris's campaign.
Could be.
After Chris and Piers save us, we
Did he
make
get an
our
extra
way
weapon,
through the
though? I
city
agree.
and
No,
contend
no.
with another new enemy.
Yeah, straight up
A
tank
C-virus
busted through
mutation
there.
That is basically the Chainsaw Man.
Chainsaw
from previous
Man.
entries,
Once again.
But once again, removing all subtlety and design from the original monster to create something that functions exactly the same, just amped up to 1,000. After defeating it, we meet up with Leon and Helena, repeating the same sequence over again from Jake and Sherry's perspective. Jake and Sherry eventually make it to the harbor and are chased by the Chainsaw Man. Someone is overlooking them, though, because they're protected by a sniper. When they show up to the meeting point,
I wonder who
with
that could be.
Simmons, which we've already seen from Leon's side, things go wrong. Sherry gives Leon the data on Jake's blood, and the two try to escape, but are cornered by Chiato. Jake has the opportunity to run, but decides
captured
not to,
again.
realizing that he's finally learned to care about someone, Sherry Birkin. The two are kidnapped anyways and taken to
Again.
the underwater facility. Sherry apologizes for trusting Simmons in the first place. They are quickly released from their bindings, though, as Chris and Piers have arrived at the facility. We have to escape this place in a wild section, following this malfunctioning elevator up and down a chasm to try and get to different switches that open doors. Once we get out, we see this cutscene from Jake's perspective and have to do
From
another
Jake's
recycled
perspective.
section, shooting enemies as we move up an elevator. Finally, once we get
Gotta
to
love
the
it.
top, Chris and Piers head off to fight House, and Jake says that he isn't Wesker, and he's going to make sure he never becomes him. He's choosing his own life now, his own path. We then have a
But that, man, I like that as like a message, and I do like about it in the perspective and the mindset of, you know, your parents don't decide who you are, you decide who you are. But he's been doing it for the past however long he's been alive. You know, it's not like he knew about Wesker until 6 months ago. They're making it seem like he's been running away from Wesker his entire life. He didn't know shit. Why is it suddenly impacting him so much? Or why are they making it seem like he is trying to take responsibility for Wesker? You know? The whole message is great. It doesn't work with Jake. Yeah, exactly.
final fight with Ustinov
IMHO.
on narrow pathways and eventually on a cracking lava arena. Pushing him into the lava isn't quite enough, though, because he chases us on a jet-propelled elevator.
Yeah, this part is so
we have
dumb,
to crawl
too.
away from him in the
He should have been
longest
dead in the
QTE
lava.
sequence ever, and eventually we shoot him with one final bullet. The flame and lava seem to have exposed his heart, and this actually does kill him. Jake thanks
just so
Sherry
dumb.
for saving him, and the two clearly have something between them, romantic or platonic. Jake has learned to care. We then see Sherry in a
Whatever.
clinic. The UN has been testing Jake's samples for the past 6 months. A vaccine has been created at this point, and things are calming down. The world was saved. Jake sends Sherry a text that he has lowered his asking price to $50. Jake has entirely
Just
left
be like
his
Call of Duty with
trust
extra
and
platitude.
care
It'd
for
be like
money.
that.
He's a different man now and won't be like his father before him. But we see Jake on a motorcycle wearing Wesker-style glasses, showing that he still, at least, has his dad's swag. I really don't mind the story in Jake's playthrough at all. I think it's pretty decent, and Jake was one of the only new main characters introduced that I liked. He's obviously a bit tropey, but it feels like it fits with the tale. He's distanced and doesn't hold a lot of trust for anyone. He only trusts...
This is interesting because I feel like we've had pretty like flipped opinions where like I liked Leon's because I liked the beginning of how it was and it felt very horror reminiscent, and it was a mess throughout the rest of it, but at least it felt like I found bones of Resident Evil in it. And you know, Chris's was a hot mess, but the ending was really good and had a consistent story throughout of Chris, you know, being a huge asshole and then, you know, Piers dying and things like that. But Jake's and Sherry's is like in an area, gets kidnapped. In an area, gets kidnapped. And it's like, and I don't like the whole Jake's story with, you know, not being your father, because of course you're not your father. You weren't even raised by him.
It's that cold, hard scratch.
He may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy.
Throughout his journeys with Sherry, he learns to trust someone else, to care about someone else.
See Jake in Revelation 3.
Also deeper in the themes for this campaign is the fact that Jake is trying to break the cycle of his father's crimes. He doesn't want to be like his dad. He wants to make his own way, and he eventually learns to do this, to become the hero that his father could never be. But the biggest part of where Jake's campaign fails is in just how stale the whole thing is.
Yes!
There are way too many chase/vehicle sections to really make this thing fun. While this should keep the pace moving, the strict nature of these sections really just slows
You're
the
getting
whole
kidnapped
thing
more than
down.
Ashley. True.
Instead of feeling like a constant chase, it really just feels like chunks of a chase that we have to complete as different levels. Also, a lot of the non-chase sequences are just rehashed from previous campaigns.
Yes.
Since this one has so much overlap with the others, it leaves a lot of the campaign feeling like we've already done it before because we have. Because of this, Jake's campaign gets a B rank.
He said that Leon's is worse than both Jake's and Chris's? Wait, that's crazy. Leon's campaign is the worst? I mean, it's still bad, but worse than Jake's? I don't know about that one. I was okay with Chris's being better. Whoa.
Ada's campaign is the final one in the story.
Listen, he can have whatever opinion he likes. It's Resident Evil 6 at the end of the day. I'm not going to lose sleep over someone liking specific campaigns more than others. But again, he also mentioned only playing it some of it co-op versus other bits not. Maybe my time with Shia changed my perspective on Leon's campaign and then shifted my perspective on Chris's and Jake's as well. You never know, you know?
Mostly
got to square up on this one? Absolutely not. He's entitled to an opinion. He makes awesome videos about it. If I want to express my own opinion, I do this shit.
Exists to wrap up and explain.
Just kidding. He's wrong. He sucks.
Explain all the loose threads in the story. Ever wonder why the hell Ada was tweaking out and killing everyone? Well, that'll get explained here, and it's even
in Ada's
stupider
campaign
than you could imagine.
Okay, guys, in case we talked about, in case you know how you guys were like, oh yeah, Helena's the sex appeal. Are you sure? Are you sure, guys? Are you sure? Are you sure?
We obviously play Ada during this section, and if we're playing solo, then it's just Ada, as this was really the only one that was built as a solo campaign.
It was indeed.
We can also play co-op, though, if we want, and our partner is basically Hunk, but the game doesn't call him Hunk for some reason. This co-op...
Because Hunk is an actual character, and they didn't want to have Hunk be part of the story. There you go.
Feature for this campaign was only added...
Did you look at Chris? Yeah, I kept talking about how sweaty and hot he was. All the time.
Resident Evil 6 was released because fans complained. Regardless, Ada...
Was she not in a wetsuit? Why was she naked? Don't worry about it.
A submarine.
Don't worry about it.
We see a flashback to Ada in a mansion as she's being chased by soldiers.
Don't worry about it.
She has a futuristic video call with Simmons. He gives Ada a piece of intel that interests her, which leads her to the submarine. She's here to investigate Simmons, mainly because they worked together in the past, and once she realized Simmons was up to shady shit, she abandoned him, so now he has it out for her. Ada's biggest gameplay change is that her main weapon is the crossbow that she uses in previous games. It's not a very good weapon in Resident Evil 6 and honestly kind of sucks, but Ada is proficient in hand-to-hand combat, so that makes up for it a bit. And if the previous gameplay chapters were action movies, like a standard zombie flick,
hers is a spy movie, I think,
and a globe-trotting chase film, then this campaign is the most standard Resident Evil game out of all four. In Ada's campaign, we actually get to solve puzzles. It feels the most like a previous entry in the series, even though it has its fair share of action moments and tone. But Ada has some seriously poorly implemented stealth sections that failed, result in us fighting swarms of unnecessary enemies.
Yep.
But the story is
not fun.
The worst part of the campaign. And
the story is easily the worst part.
Drags it down by a mile.
That's insane.
Aboard the submarine, we find a presentation that gives orders to Ada to find Sherry and Jake and see if he has the C virus. But this was from 6 months ago, and Ada doesn't remember these orders. As she escapes the destroyed submarine, she speaks to Simmons, who spells it out plainly for her. The U.S. is about to be hit by a bioterrorism attack.
Tip for the
and
what's
then
worthwhile,
China will
okay?
be hit. This will all be done by the leader of Neo Umbrella, Ada Wong. Ada still doesn't understand, but she doesn't want to be complicit. She escapes the submarine and arrives.
Ah, that's right. Simmons wasn't actually. It was the new Ada Wong. It was Clara, or whatever her fucking name is.
Arrives in Tall Oaks the next day. She arrives after the attack and tries to get access to Simmons' lab in the catacombs.
Leon goes to A, Chris is C, Jake is B.
We have to
Interesting.
solve some puzzles here and gather some crests. There's actually a pretty cool puzzle here that requires us to remove weight off of a floor that falls when too much is on it. The only way to solve this is to impale the zombies on the floor into the wall. It was a pretty unique puzzle that actually stumped me for a few minutes. Eventually, Ada finds the bottom of this chasm and sees Helena's sister about to transform.
Weighted puzzles.
We then get the same sequence from before,
Carla.
but as Ada.
Thank you.
We have the same boss fight and minecart section as before, and Deborah ends up dead. After she leaves these two, Simmons tells her to head to the research lab. She ends up seeing the VHS tape that Leon saw before.
Oh, the other
of
Ada being
herself
born.
being birthed from a shell. But it's clear now, from Ada's perspective, that this wasn't the real Ada. Simmons
I'm the
created
real
some
Ada
sort
Wong.
of clone, not only to besmirch Ada's name, but to also
Phone
create
cube.
a leader of Neo Umbrella. Now that Ada realizes what's going on, she needs to take down this imposter Ada Wong.
Or the story
We
of
then
Don't Ever
jump
Trick
over
Ada.
to China
Yes.
As Chris's team is heading in to rescue hostages. Ada heads through the market streets of China and deals with the chainsaw man that Jake and Sherry dealt with.
I forget if she
eventually
ever gets
locates
explosive
these two
rounds.
running
I would
away from that
imagine.
Same enemy after she gets rid of it and helps them out. We then have to oversee them with a sniper rifle. Ada then
Oversee
heads onto
them.
the battleship and finds records of the experiments that Simmons was conducting to recreate Ada Wong. Ada then sees her clone falling from the helicopter pad after being shot by a sniper. Ada sort of reveals the backstory here, one that's mostly elaborated upon, again, in the files in the main menu.
Starts with pipe
Derek
bombs.
Simmons
Got
had
it.
a researcher named Carla. This woman was the one who discovered the C virus. She was highly devoted to Simmons, and he eventually tricked her into getting into an experiment to become Ada Wong's clone.
There it is.
It worked, but some of her original humanity remained, and she had a huge vendetta against Simmons for what he did to her.
Falling like that.
Simmons
Sephiroth cultist.
originally
That's damn
wanted to
crazy.
recreate Ada Wong because she stopped working for him, and the files leave it a bit ambiguous, but my read is that he was in love with her and was sick of getting cucked by Leon, so he made his own Ada Wong.
That is 100% what I believe too. I think most people agree with that. Simmons absolutely was hard simping for Ada and frustrated that she wouldn't put out. Absolutely.
Ada talks to Carla's dead body, but she eventually transforms. She wasn't really dead. She starts merging with the battleship beneath her. We then have to defeat these mimics and forms of her body as we move through the halls of the battleship. Ada eventually jumps in a helicopter and arrives in the city to save Leon and Helena, once again giving us another perspective of this scenario. This eventually progresses into her helping.
Yep, I was gonna say during the TRX fight.
And forcing us to
be such a
redo
gooner. You
these
turn a
fights
lady into a
again,
copy of his crush.
adding
Yeah.
almost nothing new in the process. The only thing we really see new is that Ada was overlooking Leon when he read her message. We then get a final scene with Ada as she walks through a facility, and we have the final objective: tie up loose ends.
Is it a laser
We're
hall?
in
I
Carla's
couldn't
lab,
remember.
and we see the scene of Simmons tricking her into becoming the new Ada Wong. In the last chamber, we find a test subject. It's being birthed, but Ada kills it before it can properly hatch. She destroys all of her research material and gets a call for a new job
As it
for
should
a
be.
mystery person. We then see one final post-credits scene as a man appears in the shadows, making a deal with a child. He is given an apple and heads out into the town. Tons
Apple!
of BOWs swarm on his location
Look at all the hunters.
as he reveals his identity.
Except they're not really hunters.
Jake Mueller. He keeps his promise to kill the BOWs for the paltry sum of an apple. If I'm being totally honest, Ada's campaign is easily the worst one in the entire thing.
Damn!
While I complained about the length of the other campaigns, most of that was due to pacing, not due purely to length. Ada's is short, and it's probably too short and mostly unnecessary.
I think the big thing though is it was either free or paid DLC when Resident Evil 6 first came out. And then I think it was then just bundled into the PC release. So I think it was kind of like an additional like, hey guys, here's thanks for enjoying Resident Evil 6. Here you go. It was paid. If it was paid, that's bad. I cannot remember. It was either paid DLC or it was free DLC later. I cannot remember.
Most of the reveals in this campaign are cheap and don't make a lot of sense. It's a
It
massive
was hidden campaign
cop-out.
after competing. I thought you had to download it. I got to play Ada's campaign on the 360. Yeah, I thought it was DLC that you had to download. Without DLC? I thought it was added later. It's in the base game. It was single player only until they added. Maybe that's what I was thinking of, is that they added the co-op later. Maybe that's what I'm remembering. I could be wrong. It's been, it's been 13 years since this game came out.
That Ada wasn't
Literally
actually turned into a villain, which wouldn't make sense for
this
her.
game turns 13 years old this
It was
month.
just that it was her clone the whole time. But the clone wasn't actually a clone. It was still the original researcher, sort of, but
Kinda.
not really. And the whole reason that this entire thing happened was because Derek Simmons was in love with Ada Wong and needed to create a new version of her since he pissed the real version off.
Yep.
The narrative in Ada's campaign is the worst because it makes the story from the entire game worse. It's not isolated to just this one. For that, I give Ada's campaign a D rank. There's one
Damn.
last thing to talk about before I give my final thoughts on this game, because
Oh.
there were no narrative DLC released for Resident Evil 6. There were PvP modes released, but nothing of real substance. Resident
like
Evil
Agent
6
Hunt.
does have a mercenaries mode, and it is substantial, but it honestly fails in much of the same ways that the main game does. It just suffers from all the movement system issues and stunning, so it's not really that fun to play. It can be interesting if you actually get super invested and learn all of the little tricks and
I remember playing a shit ton of this because there wasn't anything else Resident Evil for me to play at the time. I remember dumping tons and tons of time into this thing. It was insane.
cancels that the game has to offer, but that was never really the appeal in the previous
It was so
systems.
bad he pissed off 2
I
Adas.
always
Yeah,
liked
for
combat
real.
in Resident Evil 4 and 5 because those games had simple systems, but those systems went incredibly far with one game mode,
Yeah.
Mercenaries. It's about how we use the simple systems that were provided, making the most of what we have. Providing extra depth to the system just
Yeah.
makes it feel like a different game. So it's not really all that enjoyable.
Yeah.
But functionally, it's mostly the same as the previous action games.
I would
in
give
the
an 8 at
series,
least a C.
but with a new gameplay
I
control.
think that's fair.
Resident Evil 6 as a whole is basically a huge mess.
Yeah.
It has so many problems that just add up to create this incredibly weird product that does not feel like a Resident Evil game at all.
Fair.
It feels more like a Marvel movie than it does a zombie horror tale.
You know what's crazy? I'd love to learn more about this. Your favorite son mentioned it at the beginning of the video when he was talking about kind of the creation of the game and that they genuinely thought they were making a horror masterpiece. They thought they were making the ultimate horror project. And I'm like, how? Like, how did they think this was the ultimate horror project? Who greenlit this? You know? What? That director must have been so unaware with what his product had turned into by that time. Even though it was not a good RE game, I'm so glad I got to find out about it and through seeing you play it. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. The amount of hours I poured into RE4 Mercenaries is ungodly. I'll feel that. I wonder if that was the marketing or genuinely thought that. Yeah, it could have just been a marketing thing too. I mean, because obviously people are going to want to talk up their games.
Resident Evil 6 was born with wax wings, destined to fly too close to the sun. From the moment that Resident Evil 4 succeeded as much as it did, it was written in stone that this game would be made, that Capcom would take things too far.
Yeah.
This is because Resident Evil feels like it exists in cycles. The series invents or reinvents itself in ways that make it successful. This was seen with the original PS1 games and the initial success that the series had.
True.
Capcom attempts to recreate their original successes as many times as they can, and they milk the cow until it's dry, taking the original concept further and further until it stops working.
Yeah, so in this case, Resident Evil 2 was a slam dunk success. Resident Evil 3, while I love it and is one of, I think, the best Resident Evil games, was a bit more polarizing and did not do nearly as well as Resident Evil 2. And then Code Veronica is one of the best-selling Dreamcast games of all time, but because it was on the Dreamcast initially, it wasn't as well known or well purchased as other Resident Evil titles would have been. And then they depart from this with Resident Evil 4, and I'm not talking remakes and I'm not talking 0. And then 4 is a grand slam massive success. And then Resident Evil 5 is they tried to recreate that, and it was more like Resident Evil 3's jump, and then Resident Evil 6 is
then they need to reinvent the series, and luckily they do this to great response, just like with Resident Evil 4. This series is successful again and critically acclaimed, but once again they fall into the same trap. With Resident Evil 5 and 6, Capcom tried to recreate the success of Resident Evil 4.
Again.
It worked with Resident Evil 5, but it wasn't as successful with Resident Evil 6. Shinji Mikami, though he was gone from the company at the time, had kind of called this one.
I think Shinji Mikami even around this time was going off to make The Evil Within. And The Evil Within 100% is a better game than Resident Evil 6. Evil Within still does have its fair shake of flaws. Evil Within's not a great, perfect game either, but I think Evil Within is a better game than Resident Evil 6. I would probably even say that it's better than Resident Evil 5.
He said that he wouldn't play Resident Evil 5 because he knew there were too many things he would have changed, and he warned the team that he thought they wouldn't be able to do another game in an action style with 6 because it might be stale.
Yeah.
And by the time 6 came out, it was clear that Capcom had lost the plot. They had lost what originally made Resident Evil 4 so appealing in the first place. What made it a game that could last for decades rather than just a short sales quarter. This game's story drags on, and when it's bad, it's almost insufferably boring. It's hard to even continue on because there's nothing really keeping you there. Disconnected levels that almost have nothing to do with each other because the story isn't moving forward.
Interesting question, Tree. I wonder if the cycle will happen again with 9, since it happened with 3 and 6. Well, not 3 and 6. It would be... I would say Code Veronica in 6 is probably more fair. But yeah, I think the difference is that 7 and 8, I think, were the end of its own cycle. I think what we're getting with 9 is not the third part of that series. You know, I think Resident Evil 9 is the new Resident Evil 1. It's the new Resident Evil 4. I'm pretty certain the new Resident Evil 7. Because it's such a wide departure from Ethan's story. New setting, engine is super improved. It's been almost a decade since Resident Evil 7 came out. So I think I would say 9 is probably more so going to be in line with 1, 4, and 7. And that they are, let's reinvent it again and do something new, which I'm excited about.
When it's good, it's basically just a rehash of previous games or tropey stories that have already been told in other mediums 100 times over. The gameplay is frustrating and removes most of the fun from the franchise, along with the horror. This game is not scary at all, and even the most horror that it gets, Leon's campaign, doesn't feel like a horror game in the slightest.
Yeah, honestly.
Resident Evil 6 released to quite a strong start, selling 4.5 million units, and setting a new record for the company.
That's what I was talking about. Like, I don't know if you guys believed me when I said it. It was the highest grossing Resident Evil at the time. 4.5 million units.
But after the reception to the game was weak and reviews mostly came out mixed, the sales began to slow, causing Capcom to lower their financial projections for the year. Resident Evil 6 was a slight bump in the road for the series, but it was a clear indicator that the main numbered entries needed another big change to grab more interest in the franchise again.
Absolutely.
Capcom would do this to great success.
With Resident Evil 7.
We'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, I was going to say that'll be Resident Evil 7. So
thanks again for watching.
The lucky part about Resident Evil as a whole, 7, slam dunk. They captured it again. Brand new audience, modernized horror, fits in the Resident Evil formula, feels great. Resident Evil 8 has its flaws, but feels like a still a good distance or a good progression of what Resident Evil 7 started. I'm glad that we're not getting like a third one in that, because if we did, I think then they would lose the plot. But then now we're getting Resident Evil 9, and I'm excited for that. I think it's going to be better. But before we get to Resident Evil 7, we do have to play Resident Evil Revelations 2. I know Shia and I are going to be looking into playing that starting maybe next week, maybe the week after. I'm not entirely sure when we're going to be playing it. It'll be after he gets back from TwitchCon. I can tell you that much. And I know we're going to be working out when to work on it with the schedule. I don't have a specific time yet. And I will tell people when we do, obviously. But yeah, so Resident Evil Revelations 2 is our next title. So let's go ahead and close this out. Guys, don't forget to support and subscribe to Your Favorite Son over on YouTube. They do awesome video summaries like this. Please go check it out. I'm sure you guys can see all the amazing stuff that gets recommended to me. Like, I love the thumbnail for this video. Resident Evil 6's platinum nearly made me pee myself. I love that it's just Chris like romantically holding Piers and force feeding him green herb Tic Tacs. It's amazing. But yeah, be sure to go support Your Favorite Son. They make amazing content, and I'm very fortunate enough that they are good with me reacting to it. So yeah. So that does it for Resident Evil 6. I got a beautiful screenshot with that on the Chris campaign. Yeah. My goodness, hell yeah. We're playing Rev 2 right now. I haven't played Rev 2 in Revelations 2. I haven't played Revelations 2 since 2020. So it has been 5 years since I played Rev 2. Hey, thank you for the combo, guys. Thank you. So it'll be nice to go back to it, and I've never played it co-op. I've actually never, ever played Revelations 2 in co-op. So I think it'll be really interesting to go back and play it like that. I still haven't actually played Rev 2. I'm excited to see it. I will say, I think Rev 2 is actually a good game. It takes a very different approach to the co-op Resident Evil formula. Essentially, it's going to be episodic. There's going to be a Claire episode and a Barry episode, and they both have their own partners. Claire has Moira, who is Barry's daughter, and then Barry has, I cannot for the life of me remember her name, Natalia, I think it is what it is. Is it Natalia? Does anyone know? Is it Natalia? I think it's Natalia. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, Claire and Barry are like the fighters, where Moira and Natalia are like the spotters, where they will kind of like point out enemies. They will like see things in the environment. They will kind of assist with puzzles, but they don't really fight much. Moira can fight, but she doesn't have a gun. So that is going to be the big departure, is one of us is going to have a gun. The other one is going to be the spotter. I don't even think Shia and I decided who is going to be what yet. I think I offered to be either, because I don't really care. At the end of the day, I just get to spend time with Shia, which is my favorite thing. So very, very exciting. Very much looking forward to that. RE6 is a mess, but I can agree that it's still okay when you play with your friends. Yeah, and I mean, like, that's what Shia and I came to the conclusion of. Like, I give Resident Evil 6 probably like a 6 out of 10, maybe a 5. It's a mess, but it's not unplayable. Did you see that article where it said the devs of RE9 honestly aren't sure what's scary anymore? We've made so many of these that we can't tell. No, but I did see them talking about how they can't have someone like Leon back as the main character and expect it to be horror focused, because someone that's trained and as veteran as Leon is not going to be like jumping to like the sound of a can falling or like the sound of like a footstep, you know? So I don't know. They say that, but like I think they nailed it with what happens in Resident Evil 7. Really good handling of horror there. I think they handled it really well in Resident Evil 8 in the dollhouse. Also really freaking good. So I'm not 100% I agree with that. With Leon being scared? I think I do. Leon's like 50 something now. I think it's going to be a little bit hard to see him like jumpy and scared, you know? The dollhouse is creepy. I agree. I think part of the horror comes in from people being scared and terrified. You know? I think they got away with it with Ethan because they leaned so hard into modern horror game tropes in a good way. And things like that. Because he also had a lot of quippy one-liners, but he was also a self-insert character. He's literally a blank slate. That's why he doesn't have like an official design. So, or an official face capture, I should say. Leon's been through so much, yeah. And Leon won't be frightened either. He's already seen it all and he has his own sense of humor. Yeah. With being unable to make a horror game as a horror protagonist, personally, I don't need my protagonist to be scared. I need the game to scare me. So there's truth to that in some senses, because you can make games that don't scare the protagonist, like Resident Evil 7 or Resident Evil 8, where it just puts them on edge, you know. But if Leon is the protagonist, again, trained soldier, very capable, very able to fight, very able to, you know, do this, that, and the third, it is a lot harder to make horrific situations like that if he's throwing out one-liners like, where'd everyone go? Bingo? While also trying to scare you. And instead, it's easier to set it up like Ethan if he's screaming, you know, trying to find his daughter, trying to find his wife, you know, be a family man, and despite the fear, overcoming it to save those people. And for Leon, it's less of overcoming the fear and I have a mission. So that's where it gets a little weird. So it's an interesting perspective. I think so too. But guys, that's going to do it for tonight. I really appreciate all the support that you've shown. This was a really fun cap-off stream compared to yesterday. You know, we don't have to worry too much about it being a 12-hour stream today. Yeah, my tongue is pierced. Bleh. Yippee! We're gonna raid Envy. This is my good friend. He's playing Hollow Knight right now. He's having a good time. He's vibing, thriving, surviving, everything like that. So yeah, send him some hype and some love if you get the chance. I think he's playing. Is he Silk Song or is he just regular? Oh, it's Silk Song. So he's playing Silk Song. So let's go send him some hype and some love. If you are not a sub, use the second raid message. If you are a sub, use the first raid message. I will be back tomorrow. It's going to be a Final Fantasy 14 collab with Taiga, Vanta, and Ryzar. We're going to be starting 1 hour earlier than we normally do. So keep that in mind. We're going to be starting an hour earlier than we did today. And then over the next couple of days, I'm going to decide whether I'm going to be streaming the rest of Silent Hill F on stream, or playing it on stream. I don't think I am. I think I am going to lean into trying to find maybe videos to react to on stream. I think that would be fun. Beat it in Discord with you guys. Go for the 100%. Go for the platinum trophy, and then come back and watch like a lore breakdown. So. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow for Resident Evil 14, Jesus, Final Fantasy 14.